somebody makes a great play or player of the game kind of thing, we do a picture of them in our team room, and now we're going to do a 3-in-1 collage because that play just needs 3 different pictures to really show how good it was. And the one he made, the second one he made was really great too. Love the way he's playing. I mean, he's getting a lot of attention now, and he's still winning. He's still finishing plays, blocking. Really happy with our perimeter blocking as a receiver group. As you can imagine, every position group played well. Was particularly happy with the big catches, the tough catches, the catches across the middle, the contested catches, obviously, the circus catches, the blocking, and same with the tight ends. Talk about a group that's really playing well. And Colston Loveland is sometimes getting double teamed out there. There's you can see the major attention on Colston. He's so unselfish. Continues to block great, gets other guys open. A.J. Barner really stepping up. Max Bredesen continue to have another great game again by Max and A.J. Barner. The backs played really well, ran really hard. All 3, Blake, Dono, and Kalel. And a completely unselfish group at a position where it's hard to be unselfish. They continue to be. Same with the quarterback. Had one of his best games. He's just so efficient in how he plays the game and what he does for our offense. He really makes it go. But also completely unselfish, just like everybody on our team. I mean, I can name every guy right now, but especially him, especially JJ. See some quarterbacks throwing 4 to 6 touchdowns a game, and he's just so locked in on winning and being efficient for the team and contributing to the team. It's a beautiful thing. And the rest of the quarterbacks, Jack Tuttle, Jaden Denegal, Davis Warren, I thought they were really good too. I thought we made a real big step and improvement when our twos went in the game. That we still put up a field goal drive and a touchdown drive. That was really good. O-line and the O-line, dominant offensive line against a really big defensive line. Those guys were big and physical, and I thought our offensive line played extremely well. Another group that's playing really good, unselfish football. Trevor Keegan, Ladarius Henderson both had really good games, and Drake, Barnhart played really well. Trente Jones played really. We got to get Trente in the game more. He's such a good player, so athletic, and we might have to start playing a bit of a rotation. I mean, and our guys are unselfish and will do it, but that's a real strength for us that have one of their better games.
Andrew? Your team has not committed very many penalties. I guess false starts are one thing, but when they're playing with such aggression and still avoiding holdings, pass interferences, things like that, I guess what's the key to that line, and how impressed are you with that?
Really disciplined, is the key, and really knowing the situations, situational awareness, football awareness, rules awareness. Our guys do a great job of taking the coaching, and they're super excited about situations too. I mean, I think they've learned so much. Be interesting if you ask them, some of the guys on the team, offense, defense, or special teams, give them some situational scenarios, I bet they would quit themselves really good. And they're excited to learn that stuff too. It really stimulates the whole team, and something we work on daily in training camp. And besides the regular coaching that the guys get, I mean, we devote a meeting a week to the situational awareness. Our guys are real sharp that way, and they're smart, and they love as I said, being stimulated and learning new stuff. And then putting it into practice, that just makes you feel great when you see it in the game. 0 penalties in this last game as a team. Tremendous. I know there's a few penalties that weren't called, maybe both ways, but officials were letting the guys play. I think that's part of it, but I think the biggest part is our guys really focus and dial in on situational awareness, technique, and discipline, and they know the rules, and do a great job.
On the left, Aaron.
Jim, after the game on Saturday, you mentioned the word critical a couple times to describe the win.
Uh-huh.
What did you mean by that?
That was the task at hand, going on the road, getting a Big Ten win against a really good football team in a the hostile environment, sea of red, loud, all those things. I mean, each game now, it's critical. It's critical as it gets, as clearly as I can say it.
On the back right, Alejandro.
Coach, you saw Rhule with the choose near the end of the game. How's he doing physically, and is the goal with him just to get up more snaps as he works his way back?
Yeah. Progressing really well. It's becoming there's so many times we have guys that are working through something. That's football. I mean, it's rare. It's lucky when you come out of a game as healthy as we did coming out of this game. But yeah, you can rest assured that there's somebody, multiple guys that are working through something, and guys defy like human capacity to play sometimes. Definitely almost superhero, superhuman in that way. They get the treatment, they get the rehab, they find a pad that protects them. Just the ability to cut like whatever what that time of being out would have been for a normal person. Football players just seem to have that ability. Some even more than others. I mean, Mike Samerstow right now. I mean, it's freaky. It's freaky in that way. The Green brothers are like that. I think I was like that. It doesn't make you a better person. Doesn't make you a better anything. It's just better at playing with pain and coming back faster than other people. That's the only thing that really makes you better at than somebody. But not saying we're better than people. Just better at playing with pain.
Angelique.
Jim, do you envision sticking with that starting lineup on the offensive line with Ladarius at left and Carson at right?
Well, Miles is working through something, and he's playing. He's shown to be, great player, team player, unselfish guy. But, gosh, I mean, so's Trente, so's Andrew Gentry, Jeff Percy. I mean, there's just so many good guys in there, right? That just want to see them out there. I mean, we do a thing with the defensive line, a rally group where I'm not, maybe haven't really done anything quite like that on the offensive line, but in spots perhaps, a rally guy goes in and he's fresh and he's good, Can we use that to our advantage? I think we really have to explore that and look at that. As I said, especially with Trente and Miles will be the same. LD and Keegs probably played the best of any of our two offensive linemen, and in a group that was really, really good in this game, one of our best.
You've mentioned unselfishness a few times too. Can you coach that, or how does that develop in a team?
Yeah, it's how does that develop? That's maybe that's one of the great mysteries, of a team environment. I definitely think it comes from the individuals. Those individuals. Yeah, I think if that was real coachable, probably be happening a lot more. But yeah, it's rare. It's rare when it happens. But I mean, you see what our team. I mean, this game really wasn't all won on Saturday. I mean, this was the way they practiced, the entire team. Yeah, the starters, the backups, the players who play in the spot situations, specialized on special teams or offense and defense, scout team players, the freshmen, guys who are going to go in pro that aren't taking a knee, that are I could give you 50, 60 examples of that with our team. And yeah, that's it's the one thing that when things are scary good, it's that's where you want to be. That's who you want to be with. That's how you want to be doing things. But the law of averages say that it's going to catch up to you. And, to see if we could defy Sir Isaac Newton's laws of gravity, what goes up must come down. And the gravitational force of the earth is tremendous. And so are some of the forces against the football team. Some of the things that are set there to divide a football team. And the ones that aren't divided are the ones that are playing in the playoffs and, eventually champion. But yeah, there's the opponent. There's human jealousy. There's the star system. There's the media that likes. I mean, I'm not accusing you of anything, but yeah, people that read like to read the salacious story. Like to see where things may be divided. Not blaming that on anybody here. It's just human nature. But there's definitely force. There's injury. There's confidence. There's so many things that, and eventually selfishness. It's another human nature thing on a football team. And I look at our team, and it's not just the players. It is the players. I mean, it is the players. I mean, those guys get so much at stake, with their individual careers, and there's nothing more important to me than each and every guy's individual career. But to do both, to love both, do what's best for your family, do what's best for you, and then get the team in there. I mean, that's scary good, and that's happening with our staff, our coaching staff, the coordinators, the assistant coaches, staff, the medical, the doctors, the trainers, the equipment staff, Gary Hazlett, Sonny, Drew, in the weight room with Herb, Jay Tress, Darren, Benny Raby, Locke, Phil Johnson in the training room, and Pierre and Jason and Steve, with Dave, no shameless self-promotion, Scott Goldschmidt, Albert, Claiborne Green. It's a scary good thing, and how do you keep those balls up in the air? You know, how do you keep them high? I mean, probably energy, you know, energy and working at it and attacking it. It's the only way to keep a balloon up that doesn't have helium in it, right? And eventually that's going to come down. But, hey, smoke still rises, you know. It stays up a long time, I've noticed. Heat, I guess heat, energy, those things are the way we're going about it.
Isaiah?
What have you seen from Minnesota on film?
Good. Another really good defense. Really stout. The quarterback's really coming along. And you know, they have a tremendous ability to run the ball. You know, physical team that is going to be. I love how they play. I mean, it's an emotional, you know, fired up type of team. And PJ does a great job. I mean, you can always tell they're confident. I mean, no matter what the stakes are, the odds are, you just see it in the way they play. They play hard. And it's all you can ever ask for as a coach from your players is that they play hard. Our guys are doing it. Minnesota's guys are. I mean, it'll be a football fight, you know, like it is every Saturday. And we got to play good. Get prepared, practice, and get ready to go execute in another one of those crazy college campus stadiums. But yeah, can't wait.
On the right, Paul?
Jim, you mentioned doing a meeting per week on situational awareness to keep those county numbers down.
Yeah.
Anything you guys have been focusing on specifically in those sessions that have helped with success there?
Pretty much on everything. And you know, Grant Newsom's doing it this year. He's doing an incredible job. I mean, he's and you're doing a lot of you know what our team does right, maybe something we did wrong, or what another team did wrong. You know, don't be this guy and make this penalty in this crucial situation. You know, the throw the punch or you know, lose your stuff. And then clips from all over, college football, pro football. And it's great. It's entertaining. It's insightful. And it's a great learning experience. And he's taking it over this year and doing a heck of a job.
Got time for a few more. We'll start with Reiner.
We call it Teach the Game. TTG. We've been doing it so long, now we got an acronym for it.
Jim, do you think you found, I guess, the signs and the factors that lead to the gravitational pull and being able to find things that maybe could prevent that and allow for the sustainability of the success?
Yeah. Think so. Think we do things to try to help that as much as possible. I mean, you know, it really comes down to, hey, I mean, we're for you. We don't ever think we're ever against, you know, any of our own, you know, coaches, players, or staff. And we want you to have all the success in the world. And by the way, you're having it. So keep doing you. It's working. And if you want to get a little bit better at something, just work a little bit harder at it. And whatever you do, don't get the big head, because that's a trap. A deep, dark, lonely trap.
Is that something, though, I mean, over the years in coaching, I mean, just kind of working with teams, understanding team dynamic to be able to, you know, figure out some of those telltale signs and be able to read the room, so to speak?
Yeah. I think I'm pretty good at it.
Is that it? Nope. We'll go one last question here, Alejandro.
Little Brown Jug, memories of the rivalry. I mean, it's a series that doesn't get played as much as it used to. What does it mean for this program?
Trophy game. Part of our TTG was to learn the entire history of the Little Brown Jug, and that was a half-hour session, 45-minute session in August. So and many of the guys have have participated in it, know what it's about, and yeah, we want to. It's something that's a priority for us. Get the best grades. Win the most awards and trophies, and excel at football.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Nice week for Josiah Stewart. He's your Big Ten co-defensive player of the week. Had 5 tackles and a pair of sacks in that dominant performance by the Michigan defense this past weekend against Nebraska. And now it will be Minnesota next coming at that Wolverine D. Ethan Kaliakmanis and company scored 35 against Louisiana. Kaliakmanis was efficient, didn't throw it a lot, 12 of 14, but had 3 total touchdowns, and the defense did just enough as the Gophers picked up a much-needed win over the Raging Cajuns. 35-24 was the final. Certainly has been a bit of an up and down start to 2023 after a pair of wins to start the year, including a conference dub in the opener against Nebraska. Gophers lost back-to-back games, giving up 400 yards passing to both North Carolina and Northwestern before bouncing back with that win over Louisiana this past Saturday. Now a much tougher test coming up this Saturday night at home against Michigan. In advance of that one, here's Gopher headman PJ Fleck.
All right. Obviously, really excited about the win on Saturday. Just want to thank all of our fans. Hopefully, everybody had a really safe homecoming. Again, our job is to go out and win a football game for everybody, so they have a great evening. So, playing at 11 o'clock was really good for our team. You practice in the morning, so that was pretty common for us. Guys got up ready to roll, and there was some really good from the game, a ton of good from the game. Things we got to get better, correct? But hopefully, everybody had a great, safe homecoming. And really enjoyed themselves. So appreciate our fans with the stripe out and supporting us the way they do. So with that, open it for questions.
After a good win on Saturday, 5 games into the season, what would you say the identity of this team is offensively, defensively, special teams?
Well, I think one thing we have to continue to work on is, being cohesive, playing complementary football. I think we're really good at that. And when we have success, we're really good at that. Right now, there's been times we've been able to play complementary football and times we haven't been able to play complementary football, and that's cost us. So the character of this football team is really, really high. I love coaching this team. They come to practice every single day, ready to roll, ready to get better. But I think we've got to keep it really balanced on offense. And again, distributing the ball to the best playmakers, but also keeping it, where we can have a high completion percentage and be efficient in the pass game, which we always want to do, but I think you got a chance to see that against Louisiana. It's hard when you have a lot of players that, that are your players that aren't there, whether it's Chris Ottman-Bell or whether it's Darius, and, it's hard to keep that consistency. Same thing on defense without Cody and playing a lot of younger players. But that's part of football, and you got to find a way, and it just keeps coming at you every week. There's a new challenge coming at you. But I don't know if you can just give this team just an identity. They've shown incredible poise. That was the whole word of the week, or the whole word of the year. They've done that. There's times we haven't. I've said that there's been times, that one thing I worry about is when it gets really good, what does this team do? And when the inexperience sets in and when it's not going so good. So all the things I've said, you've seen on display. It's not like you're like, what is he talking about? That's just coach speak, and I don't see any of that. Hopefully you all see that. But the consistency of the work to come to practice every single day and to dedicate themselves to the work that's necessary, that's been the most consistent part, and that's what I'm proud of for these guys. They just continue to keep working. So, and they got to keep getting better.
Is this Michigan team the best you've faced at University of Minnesota?
They're really good. I don't know if it's – when you go back and what is the best, which isn't the best, and we've played some really good teams since we've been here, I would say this is probably they are one of the best. I think that's a subjective answer based on that, and we're kind of in the middle of the film, so I'm not through it all, but we've watched a lot of it. I think they're one of the deepest, for sure. It doesn't matter who is in that football game. It just seems like they're always fresh because they have so many great players. And they do such a great job of rotating them, and they all make plays. And they are, and Coach Harbaugh does a great job of promoting team, right? The we-fence, right? And I love that. I love that, what he called the we-fence, But it's true. When you watch their team, they all talk about the team. They all play for their team. Sometimes you can't tell who's in the game and who just made that play because there are no just one guy's the star. They're all the stars that make up their team, and that's hard to do. It's hard to create, and I think he's done a great job of creating, I think, one of the best teams in the country. Now, what are they? Subjective. I mean, I think they're one of the best teams in the country, and they're ranked exactly where they probably should be, either 1 or 2, because they are as good as advertised. And we talk about one of the hardest schedules in the country. This is why. You're playing teams that are incredibly experienced, incredibly deep. Their defense has 7 of the 11 returning starters from last year. And not only that, it's not a freshman sitting behind them. It's another transfer, or it's another senior or another graduate. I mean, these guys are good. And he's done a heck of a job building that thing, especially with the way college football's changed, and done a very good job. And he's one of the best in the business at building teams, and anywhere he's been, got a ton of respect for him. One of the best coaches in football, period.
Anthony Smith had several impactful pressures. What have you noticed from him as he's rotated in?
Yeah, he's growing up. He's growing up. It's fun because he's only a freshman. I say that a lot. I mean, freshman. Now, again, we're in a completely different position than some people. This is truly developmental program. But when you look at Anthony Smith, I mean, he's probably one of the better looking football players on our football team. When he walks in the room, or you go on the practice field, you know who that kid is. But he's even a better kid as he is a football player, and he works so hard at his craft. You can be very transparent and be very honest with him. And that's the one thing that I think he's gotten so much better at, is taking the coaching, not taking things personal, taking the coaching and then applying it on the field. And he wants to know more. He wants to get better. I think when he first arrived here, he was just a really big athlete, really raw athlete that broke high school basketball rims. And that's what he did. But now he's becoming a really effective run stopper and pass rusher, and he's only a freshman. And so every day I just continue to see improvement in Anthony. He's got a smile that'll light up the room. I mean, here's this 6'6", 295-pound young man, and I mean, he's got this huge heart, great personality. He's got a great story. He's filled with gratitude. It's pretty cool, that he's on our team, and he's getting better every day.
Brian Sheehan was working with the tight ends quite a bit on Saturday. Have you decided to make a change there?
I'm just moving some things around and just finding ways to be able to get to find the right fit to get guys to play to where they need to play. So no, everybody's still on our staff. Just move some things around.
Did you crack open duck beer after the game? Did you have any initial thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think that's a great question. I have one of the first ever, right, available to purchase 12 packs of Duck beer. So people always ask, how can you help? Okay, and everybody's like, well, Coach, I don't know how I can help your football program. The great about the state of Minnesota is every one of you can help our football program. Okay, how can you help our football program? That's a great question, right? So what you can do is when you're at the game, everybody buy Parlor burgers. So go get yourself a burger. I mean, they're phenomenal, right? Brent does a great job. So go buy Parlor burgers. And then to wash it down responsibly, right? Go get yourself some Duck beers to wash it down. Now, I'm not the health administration, and I'm not going to sit there. That's you have a side of Lipitor with that thing, but also I'm not sitting there saying that I'm approving that for your own health. But if you'd like to help the football team, that would be a great way that you could help the football team, and because a lot of those proceeds from those things go to the NIL and go to our collective. And that's where college football is headed. And I continue to – it's not even headed, it's there. I can't keep saying it's headed. It's here, and it's here to stay, and that's how you can help our football team. So, and there's a lot of other ways you can help our football team. Continue to support our student athletes in the ways that you already do. Love how our crowd continues to just pour into our student athletes and make this such a great home field environment, home field advantage environment. And, Saturday night shouldn't be any different. I mean, that's going to be electric. I can't wait for our fans on Saturday night. NBC, I think Peacock as well. So you asked me if I did that, but that's where we went to. So Anyway, that's how you can help. And that's literally how you can help. So if you're wondering, wow, is that really how I can help? That's exactly how you can help. And you can have a great meal at the same time, responsibly.
What was the update on Lemecki? It looked like that injury looked pretty nasty.
Well, here's the thing. I'll just say this, and you can keep asking the questions, and I respect it wholeheartedly, right? So whether guys will be back or won't be back, you'll find out 2 hours for game time. Mecki's a really good player for us and has built himself into a really good wide receiver. And, training staff has him right now, and, they'll make the best decisions for him moving forward. And we continue to get those reports. But he's a heck of a football player. And you talk about developmental program. When he got here, he was very raw, and now he's making big-time plays for us. And it's unfortunate he got hurt in that play. And, again, for us to have a lot of success, we got to stay healthy. And at the beginning of the year, we haven't been able to do that with some of the top players that we've had. It's football. It happens. Not an excuse, just hard. And that's what happens when people have those types of injuries. You're not as deep as some other teams. That definitely affects you as you go forward with game plans and stuff like that. But, he's doing everything he can. I promise you that.
How did the
you
short
balance
yardage package?
your strength of running the ball versus a team like Michigan where the run defense is so good that you need to be careful not to probably overdo it.
Yeah, well, you find a way to put 13 guys on the field when nobody's looking, and see if you can add another tight end in there. They're really good. You know what? That's what we're doing right now, putting together the best game plan to put our players in the best position to be successful. I mean, you go back to 2019. We're playing a top 4 team in the country, and not many people gave us a shot on that either. I know we're different, maybe a different team, different year, things like that, but I don't think we were favored in that one or the Auburn game, and that's the same Auburn team that went out and beat Alabama. And so we have respect for everybody that we play. But we're going to prepare. They're going to prepare. That's why you play the game. And we're talking about running the football. I mean, whoever in the running back room is available for us. We did a little bit by committee last week, and I really liked the way that we ran the football. And that's a lot of credit to our offensive line. Is all that other stuff out? Yes. Okay, I mean, you think about it, I mean, this is where we're at, right? So we have a young man who plays and runs the football. And he only plays in 3 games, technically, right? I mean, actually has significant playing time. He's a freshman player of the week in the Big Ten, all 3 games that he played. Well, then he's out. Well, then we go running back by committee, and now Zach Evans, who did Sunday Night Football a few weeks ago, right, to correct some of the issues he was having, had a phenomenal night. Remember I told you, I think, Dave, you asked that question a little bit about him. I said he's working on a lot of things to be more consistent, and bang, he became really consistent, got his opportunity, and now he's freshman player of the week in the Big Ten as a running back, as a freshman. So, and again, all I'm doing is probably advertising our players, right? But that's where we're at, and this is the developmental program, and those guys are going to be really good players. And that's a credit to our offensive line and our tight ends and our wide receivers that do take a lot of pride in blocking. But they're very good. They're very good interior. They've got great ends. They've got, 10 to 12 guys they rotate, and they're all really good players. But that's why you game plan and put some stuff together. So we got a ton of respect for the run defense, and we got to find some ways to be able to do it. Because if you don't do it, you're not going to be on the field very long. That's for sure. Andy, you had a question?
Yeah. Speaking of the run game, you guys had a short yardage package that was new. Is there a name for that? Obviously, the Eagles have a unique name for that. How did it come to be that you guys are using that?
I mean, it has different names within it for us. I mean, we don't call it the tush push. I think that's what everybody calls, with the Eagles, or I think that's what it's called, the tush push. The brotherly shove. All right. See, I didn't even know. I mean, but we don't get in the huddle. Some people, think we get in the huddle and say, all right, tush push on 3, ready? We don't do that. There's certain names that fit in a family of the sneak. There's a lot of different ways to run the quarterback sneak. We've evolved. I mean, we have 5 to 6 ways to be able to do it right now. And we're going to have to be able to have those types of things in our arsenal. We also have short yardage packages, and all types of personnel groupings, just like we normally do. But we got in it, and I thought our team executed it the way it needed to be executed. Because just because it's called one thing or you see that formation doesn't mean that you're going to get the first down. You have to execute it. The Eagles execute that play very, very well, and they get a lot of credit for it because they've probably done it better than everybody else. But you still have to execute. Everybody has a job. It's not just as simple as it sounds. because there's a lot of defenses. They get into double eagle, then they'll bring the double barrels into that, and it becomes very difficult to move people, 1 to 2 yards and still get that push. So we'll continue to find different ways and unique ways to use it when we need it, but also our short yardage package will be in effect too.
What stands out to you about J.J. McCarthy?
I'm sorry?
What stands out to you about J.J. McCarthy?
Well, first of all, I got a chance to recruit J.J., not for very long, but I got a chance to recruit him, and he's very consistent in what he does. You can tell he's an overachiever. He's the ultimate competitor, but not only that, he connects the football team. I mean, every time you watch J.J. McCarthy talk in the media, he's talking about somebody else. He's talking about somebody else. He's talking about his teammates. He's talking about what makes – somebody asks him a question about himself. He's talking about, well, these guys make me better. That's a selfless teammate. And you get back to, Coach Harbaugh's defense, and he's all about the team. And his players speak the exact same language he does. And that's when you know you have something. When the best players, right, are not only the hardest workers, but when they're in the media, they sound just like their head coach. That's when you have something really special, and that's authentic. It's real. But he's very efficient. And throwing the football, I mean, he's got a high completion percentage. Their run game sets up their pass game, and then if they need to, and unravels a defense very quickly. And then they can run the football with efficiency and make the game really short. They control time of possession, and he's a big distributor of that. I mean, he's the ultimate assist, like in basketball. Just continues to collect assists. Very efficient player, and ultra competitive, you can tell, and all about the team. So nothing but praise for him.
The great Little Brown Jug rivalry, Minnesota-Michigan, one of the great historic rivalries in college football. Do you have any insight as to what can be done to protect that, or the frequency of these teams meeting going forward with the expansion of the Big Ten and all of that?
That's a question way above my pay grade. I think the Big Ten went through and had teams fill out who are your greatest rivalries and have you pick 1, 2, or 3 of those, whatever it was, and then the Big Ten basically puts it in a funnel and works with TV and the conference and said, all right, here's the protected rivalries, and those are the games we're going to play. So the great thing about it is there's so many that are in college football. Might not happen every single year, but when they do happen, that brings up the tradition of the Little Brown Jug, and that's what makes it so exciting. They're not going away forever. They just might not happen as often, and they're still there. And I think when people get really angry about, hey, those rivalries should be protected every single year, and just think a little bit outside the box, they'll still be there. It just makes that game even more important if it comes around maybe once every 4 or 5 years than just every single year. So, we're excited about the opportunity. It's been a great, long-standing rivalry for a long time. They're a really good football team, and obviously we know what's up for grabs.
You've oftentimes done educational things about the trophies and such, and you haven't played Michigan for a few years now. Have you planned to let the team know about the Jug?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this isn't about us. We're a small little speck, right, within University of Minnesota's football program's history. I mean, we're just doing our part for now to do everything we can to make it better than we found it, period. That is all what we're doing. And so absolutely. No, it doesn't matter. We get to the Axe, we'll do the whole history of the Axe and the slab of bacon, and we'll do it Floyd of Rosedale. We'll do the same thing. And I want our guys to understand those traditions. And we'll be doing that tomorrow for sure. They'll understand the history and the tradition behind this game for sure.
About the opportunistic schedule and people come to Program X to play in these big games. How excited and how are you preparing your team to take on this tough challenge in Michigan?
Absolutely. I mean, this is why you play the game. I mean, this is what college football is all about. Again, I go back to what Jim Tressel told me, and I said, why do you coach college football? Because you're working with kids and you have no idea what's going to happen. That's the exciting part and the exciting piece to this. Michigan's got a heck of a ball club, maybe the best one since he's been there. I don't think that's a secret. And they're really, really good. We're going to have to play really good to have a chance in the game. I don't think anybody would deny that. But we're capable of playing really good football. We just haven't put it all together yet. We haven't. That's a fact. And we played in 5 games, and I've told our team over the last 5 games, we've almost played a full season with what we've seen in those 5 games. what we've had to overcome. We've been down at halftime, we've been up, we lost the lead, we had to come back, we had a game-winning field goal. We've had all these things happen where we can use that to our benefit for the next 7 games, one by one, learning from your past to create your future. And this is an opportunity with the number 2 team coming in to Huntington Bank Stadium, and on Saturday night, I mean, this is what you want. This is what you dream of. And now you got to go play well, because it isn't about just, wow, this is great, the pageantry of it, and you show up. So, I mean, this team will steamroll you if you don't play well. We got to play our best game. That's for sure. And
how pleased are you with the O-line's execution and some of the things you're able to do schematically to get numbers?
Yeah, and we got to continue to find ways to get extra numbers. That's a great question because, we're going to play people that are really, really talented and really good. And, we can still do a lot of the simplistic things that we do in a very complex way. And I think our O-line's handling that really well. We're doing way more than we ever have in the run game, and we have to. And it might look simple. I mean, I even had my dad talk to me the other day, and this is going to make you guys at least smile, right? Maybe. And, I talked to my dad on the phone, and my dad's like, yeah. And he, called him to tell him happy birthday or whatever. And he's like, yeah. He's like, how's it going? I said, it's going good. We're doing all right. He's like, you run it in the middle a lot. I was like, thanks. And he goes, and then you run it to the outside a lot. It's like, yep. There are so much more than, and my dad is, obviously he never coached or played, but I always think it's funny when I listen to people, even my own family, and he didn't mean that in a mean way at all. He was just giving me some advice, like, hey man, thinking about, don't run it inside all the time. There are so many ways. There's so many gaps. There's an A gap, a B gap, a C gap. There's inside zones, there's outside zones. There's 55,000 different ways to run inside zone, right? Based on the ID, who do you make the ID? Where's your double teams? How can you make it look the same? I mean, there are all these things, but it looks to the outside person as they're just running it in the middle. They just ran the same play 45 times. Now, I'm not saying we haven't run inside zone a lot. That's what we hang our hat on. But it's as you said, there's so many complex things that we're doing within a simplistic play that it's harder to execute up front. So that the fact that you notice that, I appreciate you studying that, because that's a great question. And why I told you, like, my dad, he just kind of watches it, as a fan. You probably watch it a little bit differently. There's so many different ways to run inside zone and outside zone and counter that, the more you can do, the better you can be if you just tweak one thing. And that one small tweak can create a lot of issues on the other side. If you go back to when we were playing North Carolina, those motions that we were doing, that creates a lot of issues for the boss backers when people are trying to cheat. And we were able to have a lot of success in the run game. And all we did was make one simple thing, right? But it creates some issues on the other end. So we're going to have to find a lot of creative ways and a lot of issues because Michigan is that good. So anyway, anybody else?
If the defense is going to execute for a full 60 minutes, what has to change?
Consistency. You just said it. They have to do it for 60 minutes. They got to start fast, accelerate middle, and finish strong. And it comes down to all of it. It comes down to doing our job. It comes down to tackling. And again, we've got some guys in some positions that are doing it for the first time. That's to be expected, right? I probably have different expectations of my players than what fans do or the media does. I know what they are capable of doing and where they are in their development. But that's the position we're in. And they're going to go out there and perform the best they possibly can. I couldn't be more proud of how hard our team is playing. There is no question how hard and what they're giving. What they are giving every single day in practice and on the field. It's a 3-2 football team. That had a really, really hard fourth quarter, right? That had to learn the hard way at North Carolina about consistent play. But again, this is one of the, I didn't sit there and say we got 54 seniors that are all back and here we go, right? This is a team that has some experience and a lot of inexperience. And some of the experience are playing different positions to help out with the lack of depth with some injury stuff. So, but that's what I love about this team is they give you everything they have from all the way in January to where they are now. They give you everything they have every single day. And I couldn't ask for more from them. So the consistency is going to have to be there. And then they're going to have to be able to grow up a little bit faster. And some of those guys are doing that.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Oh, last thing. Just want to be able to wish the Minnesota Twins all the best as they head into the playoffs against the Blue Jays. So just want to wish Rocco and the Twins all the best. So, row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. Thanks.
Michigan, Minnesota, 7:30 Saturday night. By the way, in case you didn't know, the league's Freshman of the Week honor basically lives in Minneapolis after Darius Taylor won it for 3 consecutive weeks, but couldn't go this past Saturday. Zach Evans steps in, 15 carries, 85 yards, a tutty. So 4 straight weeks now that the Big Ten Freshman of the Week honor has resided in the Twin Cities. Some coaches don't like to have a bye week quite this early in the season, but that's what Wisconsin had. Actually had a bye in a day after the last Friday victory over Purdue. Now it is back home against Rutgers. A couple of games at home in a row. Rutgers and then Iowa. As a matter of fact, it'll be the 21st of October until Wisconsin leaves the state again to face Illinois. But this Saturday, it is the Scarlet Knights. That's what's on the mind of Luke Fickell as we take you to Madison.
Yeah, obviously coming off of a bye week is always, I think a little bit unique for us in particular. It was a time for us to really kind of hone in and focus on ourselves. It's not as much of a self-scout in 4 weeks. So for anything, twofold. I hate getting started like on the following opponent, so Rutgers, and for 10 days, because I think guys in particular can get bored. You practice 2 or 3 times during a week prior during the bye, and then you get into the game week when you really want them to kind of lock in and focus. So most of the bye week is kind of looking at ourselves, preparing for the next 8-9 weeks moving forward. But it's hard to not at least, get some things as moving forward, obviously for game preparations and stuff like that. So very unique. We practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Came in a little bit on Friday morning just to run around. Coming off of a Friday night game, there was a little bit more time off than I've probably ever had and been used to. But our guys were great. They came in on Friday morning, ran around for about 45 minutes, and then we kind of got them out. Their guys had class and things, but they could kind of relax the rest of the weekend. If some guys were going home, they got an opportunity to get home for a little bit. But nonetheless, back in there on Sunday, and then we kind of get rolling this week on a Monday, which we wouldn't normally do coming off the bye week. So we'll have plenty of time here with practice starting off on today, which today's a Monday, but it'll be a Tuesday practice for us, and then we'll continue to push forward. We've got a stretch here, and nobody wants to talk about the stretch, right? We want to talk about what's coming up on Saturday, but this is the time, this is the stretch that we've got to make sure we're moving forward and doing the things that are going to give us a chance to be successful, not just this weekend, but continue to push forward for the next 8 weeks.
Luke, when you did and the staff look at what you guys have done the first 4 games, what were some of the things that staff was in agreement on? Okay, we're doing well in these areas, but also, we've got to improve in.
The good news is we had been poor in the first few weeks in turnovers, and then all of a sudden we get a bunch of turnovers, and we had been poor in the first few weeks in third down, offensively in particular, and obviously the last game at Purdue we were much better in the third down stuff. So I think it's all a part of that evolution. You're looking at where you're doing a better job and where you need to focus. I know defensively it's still about leverage, it's still about tackling, but that's not something, all of a sudden in a bye week that you completely change. You're going to go live all times. But I think the best thing that, you look at our guys and you look at our coaches and the things that we've emphasized, the things we've talked about, whether it was the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season into the 4th week, I think that our kids have kind of taken that to heart and have gotten better. So it gave us an opportunity to focus back on those same things we were talking about after 2 and 3 weeks, but also even more so in the first 4 in particular. So there wasn't one in particular thing that you could just point at like we did in the first few weeks with turnovers and third downs, but I think there's a lot of little fundamental things that we have to do a lot better as we move forward.
Look, yeah, that bye week, obviously you got Jackson and Cade trying to step up and fill in for Ches after being out now. How did you see those guys maybe answer that challenge and respond to some more reps and things like that?
Well, we'll see. I think that, the time will tell. I mean, Jackson's got a bunch of probably reps, more so in fall camp, as a guy that was all of a sudden starting to kind of come into his own a little bit more as a tailback, as where he had played in the past, and was showing some things that I thought were really promising. And then Cade as well. He just, he had probably gotten a lot more reps in the spring. Being a guy that was a little bit more of a focus guy in the spring, and not that he didn't get reps in fall camp, but we thought it was important to see what Jackson could do a little bit more in the fall camp stuff. So both those guys' roles are going to be increased. I don't think it changes who we are and what we do. And I even told Braylon the same thing. It doesn't change. I think it puts a little bit more on Braylon's plate, not just carrying the football, but the leader that Ches was, the energy that Ches was, the heart that Ches was, that's something that's going to be missed. And I think it's a great opportunity for, in some ways, even Braylon to step out of his comfort zone and kind of take a little bit of that role as that, that sometimes you get used to allowing Ches to just kind of be that guy in that room in particular.
Luke, you've been asked a couple times about James Thompson Jr., but he's really seemed to have emerged here through the first 4 games. When you watch him, what stands out about what he's been able to do to succeed? And did you see this coming at all from when you got here?
I can't say that I did for sure. I mean, I think that I've always loved James and his ability, with size and length and some things that he's a little bit different than a lot of the other guys that we've got. But just to see his production through the first 4 weeks, I think that's not a surprise, but I think it's been one of those things that has been, intriguing to me, been great to our defense in particular, for a guy that really is only probably playing, 50% of the snaps, maybe a little bit more. I think he maybe is averaging 40-some snaps a game, is going to be a guy that we need to look as we continue to push forward to see is he more of a 65-75%, amount of snaps in there. And not that takes away from some others, but, the things that he can handle, the things that he can do that will continue to, push forward. But he's a guy that's had flexibility. He can move around. He can play inside. He can play over the nose. He can play, on the edge. I think he gives you some versatility for us defensively in a lot of different ways.
Luke, in those first 4 weeks, how would you assess how Riley Mahlman's played? Obviously, some adjustments were asked of the tackles in the offseason. I think he's kind of answered that.
He's probably the quiet one that nobody talks as much about, and is anything is the most consistent guy, I'd say. I think he's done a really good job. I think that, when we look at him and we have this opinion of Riley, there's so much more left in there just because of his size and athleticism. He's got, obviously only a sophomore, a guy that's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and his future to play this game can be for a long time. And, so if you were to ask me more than anything, I would say he's maybe one of the more consistent pieces up front, a guy that hasn't come out, a guy that hasn't subbed a whole lot, but yet a guy that, you don't bring up his name a ton because he's doing all the little things really well.
Jake Renfro, he obviously suited up against Purdue but didn't play. Do you anticipate him being able to play Saturday? And how do you work him back in, a guy who you know a lot about but haven't seen him here?
So I think it's still one of those ones where cautiously optimistic. He this past week in the bowl, or not bowl, but in bye week prep, a lot more work. And it started off just being some exchange periods, the scout kind of looks, and then all of a sudden when we were getting a lot more reps with some of the 2s and 3s and playing at situations, on Wednesday and Thursday, he was taking a lot of those reps. So I think he's feeling more and more comfortable. I think the Purdue week was a little bit, early. He got some reps, and he got some reps on a Wednesday or a Wednesday practice, and then even our Thursday practice, which was on Wednesday. But I don't know that we felt really comfortable thinking that he had enough if we needed him to go in that game. But he was there and he was ready. I think that after this past week and going into this week, he's a true viable option for us. I don't know that we're going to shift things around like, maybe like we started spring ball where, he was kind of in there and then we moved Board over to a guard. I don't think we're there yet, but I think that it's a great opportunity for Jake to get himself back into a position where, we can count on him. And if we need him, obviously he'll be there. But I think that there's some things that for him to continue to grow and even get healthier and healthier. Not that he's not healthy, but I just mean in all the different situations he's had, I think he's in a really good place right now. But I don't know that we would change up a lot of what we're doing.
Luke, correct if I'm wrong, but you were familiar with Nathaniel Vakos, right? You guys recruited him a little bit at Cincinnati.
Who's it? Oh yeah.
Vakos, yeah. Still, when you're out looking for a kicker in the off season, and you have a guy in the MAC that maybe hasn't played in front of 70,000 plus people, how much does that factor into the equation at all? And how do you? I mean, you don't know, right?
No, you really don't. I mean, for us in particular, if we're going to take a guy, there's some stipulations, there's a matrix that you would love to make sure fall into place, and that doesn't mean you know him exactly and how he has handled things when he was at Ohio and all those things this past year. But at least we did know him. We had him in camp. We had him around. We had known what his personality was like and truly believed that he could handle, this environment, this atmosphere. And obviously he's done a really, really good job. There's the things that are always challenges. I mean, if you said even through fall camp and spring ball and all that, he would be where he is and has done what he's done, I don't know. I mean, again, there wasn't 70, 80,000 people. It wasn't in situations where you had to have it. And, been put in those situations so far in the first 4 weeks, and he's done nothing but impress all of us.
Luke, kind of back to Ren for a little bit. I mean, we haven't seen him play here. You did at Cincinnati, obviously. What did he give you on the field at Cincinnati and in the locker room? And also Isaiah Mullins. Is there an update on Mullins' situation?
I don't know about Isaiah just yet. I mean, he limited a little bit last week. So we'll see. Those older guys, bigger guys sometimes take a little bit longer. So we'll see where he is this week. As far as Jake is a very mature guy. He's played a lot of football, but he's been out and missed a lot of football. And I know that's kind of an oxymoron to say, but as a young guy, we had him and he started the entire year and played really, really, really well. And then, then missed an entire year and then has just kind of had some of those nagging things back and forth. So I would say that the most difficult thing is his confidence, just because the sheer fact of he just had such a roller coaster the last year and a half. But the thing that gives him a chance is maturity. He's by nature a very powerful and strong guy. So even the time missed, even the, getting back with his feet underneath him, whether it's the knee or the foot, he's in a position where, he's very comfortable because he is a naturally strong guy and he has the experience of playing a lot of football. But that's why I said I don't know that we're in a rush. He's there. He's doing, a really good job at getting himself back. And if needed, then I don't feel like we would be worried because of the ball that he has played. But I think that there could be some really good situations that maybe this gives him some time and opportunity to hone his skills a little bit and get that body really ready to roll.
Look, when you're facing a Rutgers team that's blitzing as much as they are, do you have to devote extra time to it in practice, or you kind of just trust the things you've already installed can kind of work through those?
Well, I think that you got to be aware, and I think that more than anything that, the way you play the game is, being smart. I mean, if they're a team that's in high percentage of pressure team, you're trying to find those indicators to give you the best indication of what's coming, because, we're all better when we have an idea of what it is that's coming. But, they'll adjust, they'll adapt. They'll give you some things a little bit different. But I think that, there's a high risk and high reward in a lot of those things defensively when you're pressuring. And, if they're going to do that, we got to capitalize on the opportunities that we have. But we also got to be smart and sound in what we're doing as well.
Look, to follow up about Jackson and Cade, just when Ches was in, he was averaging about 13 carries per game through 4 games. Do you feel like you need that many touches out of whatever combination is the backup? And how do you manage Braylon's workload knowing his injury history and just not wanting him to wear down throughout the course of the season?
No, I think that I don't think that it will change a ton. I think that maybe the biggest thing is just knowing exactly what it is we want to do with who's in the game. But I don't feel like, and I told sitting down with Braylon this past week, I didn't feel like all of a sudden I'm saying we need you to step up. We need you to take a little bit more of a leadership role. It doesn't mean that your carries need to go up twofold or thinking that your touches need to be, exponentially different. We need to do what we need to do to win ball games, but I also think that we believe in those other guys, and maybe it's Jackson, maybe it's Cade, maybe it's a combination. I don't feel like we would be worried about giving them the ball and asking them to do the things that we've done. Is there a difference between Ches? Yeah, I would say that just because of experience. But I feel like, all of us feel good about what it is that we're doing, to not think we're going to overload Braylon and turn him into a 30 carry a week guy or something like that. But Braylon also knows that whatever we have to do, we have to do. So I think there's a balance there. I think that we continue to figure that out as we continue to move forward, and that's a part of, evolving and developing throughout the entire season.
So Luke, I know you and Greg have that, Greg Schiano have that Ohio State connection. Just how is your relationship with Greg, and how have you gotten to know each other?
It's a 1 year. I mean, we were only together for 1 year. but nonetheless, I obviously got to spend a lot of time with him and got to know him well. And we haven't stayed in a whole lot of contact. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. There aren't, fortunately, a whole lot of guys that I stay in contact with. It's just, it is what it is. But we've known each other, obviously spent a lot of time together, have an incredible amount of respect for him. And even from afar, always kind of watched and studied what they had done. Obviously not being in the league, not ever playing against him, but having that relationship a little bit more. And, now studying them and recognizing I see a lot of him in this entire team, in this program, and very sound at what they do. They're going to take advantage of every opportunity they get, and they're going to know who they are.
Luke, you obviously gave up a lot of yards on the ground against Purdue. Just with this stretch of Big Ten teams coming up that can really run the football, what's your concern level for the rush defense?
I mean, it's not like there's an over concern level. I think that we feel like, we've given up some big runs in third down situations, and those are the ones that have probably cost us as much as anything. And unfortunately, you spend a little bit of time watching football, not a ton of time watching football this weekend, but a little bit of time watching football. And I think that's one of those things that I recognize across the board in college football right now is defensively in particular, people are having a little bit more of an issue with big plays, and they're coming on the third down runs. And I think it's a great job by the offenses, to be honest with you. So I feel like we're a little bit in that same category. You can get too tied into just how many rushing yards. I think that obviously against Purdue, the quarterback scrambling and running cost us a lot, and there was a lot of yards there. And then a couple of the big runs on some on the third down stuff that just really puts you in a bad situation. So not alarming, but we all know that even during the bye week, you're finding things that you need to shore up, and definitely run defense is one of those ones.
I know you were asked about this after the game, but with Muma, he played so much in the first 3 games, and then in that one, I think he was in for the 4th down play and the final defensive snap. Was that a matter of just playing, how well he was playing, how well the other guys were playing? Was it injury?
No, it's just sometimes in some of those situations, in particular, Purdue spread us out a lot, and we felt like it was a situation where Jake Chaney was in a little bit better role in some of the spread stuff that we were getting, as much as they were trying to extend us outside the box, and it became a really difficult in that game in particular to roll, just on how much they were not giving you opportunities to sub and do some things, and just the way that the game was going with them playing. But again, I think that we feel like we've got 3 starting linebackers inside, and some way, somehow, we can roll those guys and do a better job at making sure they're all involved in what it is that we're doing.
Quick question for you on Rutgers. They're 4-1 at this point. From the film that you've watched, what areas do you think they can present some challenges?
Well, I think they do a great job at managing the game. I think special teams wise, you can tell they're very honed into what it is that they do. They're going to challenge you and pressure you in every situation, whether it's coming after punts, whether it's a possibility of fakes. They're going to have everything possible on the board, which makes you have to really execute at what you're doing. I think they do a great job at controlling the football. Call it rushing the ball, but I think they're very smart in what it is that they're doing and how in which they do it. They're gonna feature the guys that are their best players. I mean, they're going to get the ball to the tailback. They're going to put the ball in the quarterback's hands and give them some RPO options and ability to run the football. And then they're going to rely a lot more on their defense in a lot of situations. And I think that just from the big picture of the things, that if you ask me what Coach Schiano does a great job of, it's being who they are, knowing what they need to do to be successful week in and week out. And I'd say that's who Rutgers is in a nutshell.
Still efforting to get you sound from Ryan Walters as promised, but for now, we'll take you to Lincoln in just a minute to hear from Matt Rhule. Got to be a really tough weekend for Rhule and the Huskers, just dominated by a Michigan team that played its best game of the season, 45-7, and now something of a short week as Rhule and the Huskers hit the road to take on an Illinois team that is stuck in an equal early season struggle. Looking back and looking ahead, here's Husker headman Matt Rhule.
All right, yeah, we're right in the swing of things, getting ready for Illinois Friday night on a short week. So we got a lot of work done yesterday, and adjusting the week to get ready for a Friday night game. Just a couple injury updates. Deshaun Singleton hurt his knee. He'll be out for an extended period of time. We expect to have him back at some point I don't know when that'll be. So Deshaun will be out this Friday. Luke Reimer out of the hospital, back and forth kind of a little bit. So Luke won't play this Friday, but hopefully we'll have Luke healthy and back with us here soon. So.
Coach, I mean, with it being a Friday game, has it changed up tempo in practice at all, just because it's a quicker pace and a shorter week?
I think you have to just condense maybe the work time that that you're doing. Normally Monday's a day off for us. As I said, we worked last night. We'll have the players come in tonight, this afternoon, this evening, which normally Mondays are off for us. So those are the two main differences.
At the risk of it sound like a loaded question, would this be an example of a good time to hit the road, maybe?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that we're blessed to have these fans. It's like Terrence Knighton said. Terrence was like, "Man, we're played that badly," and let's make sure we say this now. Okay, after the game, you asked me a question, and in the NFL, I had to answer you the next day. Here, I get a day in between, and I would have answered you the next day. We didn't play very well. Okay, we didn't play well enough. That's not to take anything away from Michigan. Okay, Michigan's an excellent football team, but we could have played better than that. And when I say we, because that's not me throwing the players under the bus. That's all of us. And I don't think there's a guy in that locker room that doesn't feel that way. So that wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough at all. So we're not. It's not the crowd. No, I'm saying, like, I don't care where we play next. Like Terrence Knighton said to me, he said, "I can't believe we played that badly," and people were still there and they were cheering for us and all those things. I mean, it's an amazing. You can't help but say thank you to the people that came. But yeah, we got. Can I how I really feel? I'm trying to get the players to stop thinking about all of this other stuff, like play. Like, okay, we went out and played Minnesota. We played good football against Minnesota. We were flying around on defense. We were hitting people. We looked the way it's supposed to look. And then some things went wrong, right? We got a bad call at the end of the half. We scored a touchdown. It doesn't go our way. Okay, great, whatever. We come back, we battle. We fumble the ball at the end of the game. We throw a pick, we lose the game. We go to Colorado. We're playing pretty well, all right? We had 3 turnovers. I want to talk about the turnovers. I keep saying to the guys, like, it was 13-7 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. We lost 36-13. Like, we kind of accepted the fact that we were going to lose. And so, to me, Bill Walsh said it, champions behave like champions before they're champions. They have a winning standard. So I want a winning mindset. And, we played Northern Illinois. We played La Tech. We're a defensive football team. The defense has to learn that we're a defensive football team. They've got to play great defense while the offense throws, kind of plays body blows. We don't leave the offense out there in 4 wides, dropping back and throwing it 50 times a game. We did that the last couple of years, right? And everyone said, hey, it doesn't work here. So why would the defense want us to still keep doing that? So I'm saying all that to say that we've got to get to the point where we go out and play, and it doesn't matter if I'm getting double teamed as a D lineman. It doesn't matter what the call is. It doesn't matter if we're down 14-0. We got to play. And that's the winning mindset. And whereas the guys have to, again, kind of probably not listen to everything that's out there, what you should be doing. There's no you should be doing, at least in this building. It's like, go play. It's a football game. So, Steve, I expect we have some really good players. They're going to play in the National Football League. They need to show up. Like, they need to show up. Like, the good players from Michigan, I can tell you who they were because I watched them on the field, okay? Our really good players need to show up. And that's not me calling anybody out. That's me giving them confidence that I believe they can do it. There's a big difference, right? I'm not calling anybody out by name. We have guys that I believe on our team can absolutely wreck a game, and I want to see them wreck the game. And this whole, I'm just overthinking it a little bit, coach, and I'm worried about this, and I don't want to make a mistake. Okay, enough. The first play, I get all these texts, man, what a great catch, caught him on his helmet. Cover 3 in the middle safety players at 5 yards, just missed assignment. Second play, touchdown, missed assignment. Third play, missed assignment. All the touchdowns, missed assignments. So we're better than we played, right? So you tell me I want to get that off my chest to the guys. I love our guys. And all I want our guys to do is play football with confidence. I don't want them playing football afraid to lose. Play football with confidence. And so that's my job. I haven't gotten it done yet. So I'm anxious to play on Friday.
So some clarity on Reimer. You said he had some pain on Saturday. Is that like injury pain, illness pain?
No, I just don't want to start talking about his personal health without him saying. But nothing football related. Yeah, nothing football related.
Without those guys, Singleton, Reimer, put that in perspective, not having those 2 guys.
It's a big deal, I mean, some guys have to step up. Like, even in that game, once Deshaun went down, Tommy, who's been playing both ways, had to go play the whole game at corner. Then, Newsom had to go in and play at safety. So Phelan really played well. He came through for us. So This week, I think because we have some time to do it, like Kobe Bretz is a guy that can play football. We need Kobe to play well. We need Phelan to step up and play well. Tommy's a guy who's been playing both ways. He needs to help us at corner too. Some young guys that have been kind of in that red shirt mode. DeAndre Barnes is an excellent young player. He's been practicing with the twos. He's ready to go now if we need him. So some of those injuries, could maybe affect us. I think Lenhart, we have a chance of getting back this week. So obviously that'd be a big thing for us. Mackay has been playing that jack position. He went back last week and played middle linebacker. So just some different things like that. Hopefully we can settle down this week and really lock some guys into roles.
You mentioned hesitance, that word, after the game, and I wonder, after you watched it again and saw it, do you agree still? You think they were hesitant at all against Michigan, or what jumped off the film to you as needing to see that you didn't?
Yeah, we absolutely. We were hesitant in the way that we played. Like our pass rushers rushed to try to keep their quarterback in the pocket instead of cutting loose to go rush the quarterback because he ran for a touchdown. But he ran for a touchdown because one of our young D linemen went the wrong way and didn't execute his assignment. You can't play football trying not to make mistakes, right? You just can't do it that way. You got to attack, and especially a team like Michigan, right? Like you have to attack. The bigger thing for me, and I'm saying this out loud so that it's spoken into existence, is I want to be the type of team that we're playing like this, and then we get down 14-0, and we're like, oh heck no, I'm not playing like that. I'm not losing 45-7 in front of my mom. Like I'm gonna play better, not jumping out and doing my own thing, but trusting ourselves and trusting our technique. So when people say learning how to win, if you haven't won a lot, it's hard to figure out how to win. So it's like I'm doing this, okay? We lost because we made mistakes. Don't make mistakes. I'm gonna do my own thing, if you have confidence, like that, the team we played with confidence, right? You go out there, you play with a little swagger. You do your job. You do it at a really high level. Their longest play was 29 yards. It wasn't like it was just running by us. We couldn't cover. It was 29 yards on a busted assignment. We could have played better than that. So I think that it's that hesitation of not wanting to be the guy who messes up. But we need our great players to be great players, and we need them to go make plays and make plays within the scheme, not outside the scheme. So. That was pretty clear last night, and I take full responsibility. My job is to teach them how to win. So if we haven't figured out yet how to win, we were so close at Minnesota. That was what it was supposed to look like. And just because we lost doesn't mean you start searching for different answers. You just double down on what we did then. So here we are on the road again. We have a chance to go on the road, play a good team. Let's go do what we were doing.
Irrespective of health, are you guys ready to embrace and kind of line up behind Heinrich as your starting quarterback?
I feel very confident with Heinrich being the starting quarterback. That being said, I have a lot of confidence in Jeff. I know it's not probably a great answer, but we went out. We practiced last night, Sam. We practiced last night, and Jeff looked awesome. Jeff looked great. Heinrich looked great. Chubba looked good. So, I'm getting them both ready. But I have full confidence in Heinrich. In the midst of losing. And I know there were some batted passes and all things, but in the midst of losing, I saw things from Heinrich that I wanted to see. I saw him compete. I saw him, and Billy work well versus man and win on some option routes. So I saw some things that I think we need to add to our run game. Just have to get the run game back to what it had been doing.
How close are you to having what you would define as a good offensive identity that you can replicate week after week?
We have an offensive identity. We're going to run the ball. I would not just confuse, in all seriousness, I would not confuse identity, like knowing what you want to do and who you are, with always having success. Like, we lined up and we tried to run the ball against those guys. If that game stays like 7-0, or if we go down on that 4th and 2 and we score and make it 14-7, we're going to continue just trying to hey, they were running the ball. They were very consistent with their clips. We would have stayed with that. Once you get down 28-0, we're going to play to win. We came out. But we know exactly who we are. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run a little bit of option. We're going to play action pass here and there. We're going to try to convert third downs. I think we're just trying to do it better.
Along with Heinrich, after having a chance to watch the tape, what positive do you take away from Saturday, either team or individual standpoint?
That we can learn from it. There's some guys that compete. Billy Kemp competed like a son of a gun. Some other guys compete. I don't want to, and I'm not saying our guys didn't compete. Just to kind of what Mitch was saying, I just think we play with an air of hesitancy. When anytime your team does that, you put it on yourself as a coach. I'm not cutting them loose enough, so I got to do a better job. So we went out last night and we played. We didn't really play Saturday. We kind of went out there and tried to win. you got to play. It's a game. You got to play it. You got to play it, right?
Was your Sunday was your Sunday practice a little different than usual? When you say practice Sunday, was it a little
Practice
different?
last night.
Full pads.
Yeah, we practiced. Yeah, I'm saying that like no, but yeah, we went out in full pads. We competed. You know, we said, hey, we did. It's a short week, so it's kind of like a Tuesday, right? So it's that too. But we didn't really play at the level we wanted to on Sunday. So we went out, we put the ball down, we played, and you know what? Guys had fun playing.
What about Turner Corcoran?
Is he available?
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. Yeah.
So, will he be back as your starting left
Mhm.
tackle?
Yes.
And then Malachi Coleman didn't get in that game, and he's at the 4-game mark. He's a guy that you plan to play more than 4
Yeah,
games.
yeah, he was out last week. He was in the protocol, so he got hit during practice.
How do you feel about the running back spot now after a couple of weeks of trying to figure it out after game and Ramirez's situation?
Yeah, we've been going with Anthony. Anthony just has to protect the football. When he fumbled that game early on, I know a lot of people kind of said he's in the doghouse. Why? No one's in the doghouse. It's just we can't play the way we want to play and put the ball on the ground, right? So it happened again in the red zone. So I'm working with him all the time. I love the guy. I walked off the field with him like, hey, you'll be back. Let's go. Fleeks, I just think, showed us a dynamic element, and I thought Emmett played really well. Quentin, we've been trying to bring Quentin along. There's just a big difference. He's so talented. It's a big difference from going from like seeing cards to being out there, and they can be in one of 7 different defenses. And so Quentin's coming, but I think Josh has been the one guy that really kind of jumped. So he can play receiver, he can play tailback. So, Anthony will just work on ball security. Fleeks will keep bringing him along, and Emmett's a guy I think can do it all.
Heinrich described the loss on Saturday as demoralizing. How do you see the team's psyche after a few days removed from the game?
All I know is what it better be. It better be. We can't let that happen again. It better be. We better play our best game on Friday. It better be for all of us that you don't get to play for the University of Nebraska Cornhuskers and play in that stadium and play with all these facilities and get all the things that we get, and then judge how well we're going to play based upon if we're down 14-0 or not. If we're down 13-7 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter against Colorado, we better play. Okay, so that's the mindset. And so as I've told the guys, like they got, hey, I know you don't really know me, Coach Rhule. They bring you along to like, hey, I believe in you. To now, I believe in them too much to let that happen on Saturday. It's ridiculous what happened on Saturday. So I believe in them too much. They're going to play, okay? And then all I'm doing is this Friday is a great test. I said it to you guys right after the game. I said, hey, we'll find out who we are on Friday. We'll go to that bye week and we'll look at the tape and we'll say, okay, like who are the Lions? I'm not talking about being perfect. This is not a game of perfect, man. But like, who are the ones that go out there and they attack? And so I'll put my money on a lot of these guys, though. Like I could see Jamari Butler I could see Ty Robinson look in their eyes last night.
It's clear that you want to see more fire from them and see that from you today. How do you balance that with like just the overall approach that you take to this program being methodical and blue collar, and not the team that wants to come out and win a game in the first quarter? Is there something that is
I just want to be careful. I'm not saying fire. I'm not saying our guys weren't fired up to play. I'm not saying they were flat. I'm saying but I'm very specifically what I'm saying is we are a team of great guys that we don't want to make mistakes and lose the game. Okay, and so you can't play that way. You got to do your assignment. Like you don't get to just say, hey, I'm supposed to block Sam, but I'm going to block Sean instead. You got to do your assignment, but like you got to attack it. You can't go out there and be like, I don't want to get beat. So if you have 7 guys on offense trying not to get beat, like who's knocking anybody down? The great Cornhusker teams, they talked about knockdowns. We had like 100-some knockdowns 2 weeks ago, and we didn't. On the 4th and 1 play, I'll always take the heat, like take the questions, like, hey, should we run this? Should we run that? No one was on the ground on a 4th and 1 play, not one player, because we're all trying not to get beat. So I'm sending this message so that everybody on our team knows what it is, and everybody. So I don't think it's fire. That being said, the process to me is it's never the schedule. It's not do we practice on Sundays or Mondays. The process is that we have a standard of performance, a mindset, that we attack everything. We try to go 1-0 every single day. We try to get 1% better. And when we don't, we take responsibility for it. We attack like lions, everything that we do. And so the only crime against the team ever is to accept losing, to accept losing. So I thank Coach Harbaugh at the end of the game. I said, thanks for letting us play that out, right? Like 2 weeks ago, we had the lead. Who was it? Northern Illinois went down and scored as the game was over, and kind of people were kind of like, I was like, no, they got to get ready for their season, right? We lost that day. But the onside kick, like most times you wouldn't want to show your onside kick. We did it. Didn't look very good. We're going to get better from it. So that's the mindset for me. I was on the officials to the very end of the game, like, hey, throw that flag. Like, we're going to play till the end of the game. So that's the process for me. That's the methodical nature. It's just, hey, come after every game, tell the truth. We win, we lose. What happened? We could have played better on Saturday. Our guys are such good guys, they don't want to lose, but we're not going to win until we start to attack.
You had 14 sacks in the first 3 games. I don't know if you guys have had any in the last 2. Now, sacks isn't the definitive on quarterback pressure, but what do you think's happened in the last couple weeks, and how do you think it might affect the game against Illinois? They've struggled with protecting it.
Yeah, it's a great question. Maybe we had, I don't know, one against La Tech. We've been going with a little bit more 4-man rush, a little bit more coverage. There were some times in this game, again, when I say we're better than we played, like Prince Will won a couple times, Jamari won a couple times. The ball was out really quickly because, just the coverage, again, we moved a lot of guys around, but still, like, hey, we're supposed to drop down over number 3, and that guy runs to the post, and the guy's wide open, he throws the ball. So I think we can get pressure. To me, we have to have the ability to get pressure with 4. It can't always be like against Colorado, we were bringing 5 and 6 and 7, right? We have to have the ability to get pressure with 4 guys, and kind of goes back to what I'm saying about attacking, right? Like, you can't rush trying to keep the guy in the pocket. We have to rush, and Altmaier's an excellent player. He can run. He's athletic, but we can't just sit there and blitz all day and play, straight man across the board. We're going to have to rush and let our pass rushers rush, and so we've been trying to emphasize it, but we're not getting necessarily the results. Michigan at the same time does a nice job of, they're going to chip, they're going to protect, and they're going to trust their guys to win, and their guys won on some big plays.
What's your confidence level in Albano at kickers? Three in a row he's missed now, and kind of how do you assess that situation?
He's just like the rest of us, He's just like the rest of us. I've got to be better. The O-line's got to be better. The D-line's got to be better. Tristan has to be better. Tristan can kick better than he's kicking right now, and so he's got to get it corrected. He was out there last night. He was kicking. It's not for a lack of effort, not for a lack of trying, but yeah, I'm going to always, when I go to the game, I'm going to trust our guys to make the plays that I think they can make. Now, that might adjust the line. He might go for it a few more times. But, we went through one for on 4th and 1, and it didn't work out for us, right? But I think Tristan can do it. I know he can do it. And he's a young player. Sometimes I would have loved to have brought him along a little later, but he's going through the fire right now. And the good news is I think he's recognizing, again, when we talk about that fear and confidence, like, hey, I'm missing some big kicks that I want to make. I'm still here. I'm still making it. I'll be okay. And so Tristan's just going to have to get better like the rest of us.
You mentioned after the game, it could be big for a guy like Jalen even to have that catch at the end. How close is he? And sort of, do you have an update on some of the other young guys? I know like Jaden Dawes had the hand injury or whatever earlier. Is he closer? Where are some of those guys standing?
Jaden was cleared to practice last week. He broke his arm, so he was finally cleared last week. So he was out there with us last night. So he's a guy that could see some reps. As I said, Malachi was out last week. Malachi, I thought, was really coming on before that. He played some good snaps the week before against La Tech. Jalen's another guy that, as he masters what he's doing in the playbook, I think we're seeing some things out of him. So those guys are all kind of right there on the precipice of getting on the field.
Coach, going back to the quarterback spot, a couple of weeks ago, Marcus Satterfield said something along the lines of, Heinrich and Jeff are both so talented, he doesn't want them both on the sidelines. Have you ever thought about a dual quarterback system? Is that something you believe in or would try?
At the same time, or are you talking about like just playing both?
Like rotating them in and out throughout.
Yeah, I'll do whatever it takes to win. I'll do whatever it takes to win.
Back to Jeff. Is it safe to say that his road to recovery has taken longer than you expected?
No, he had a high ankle sprain. I just think he's so tough that he was out there. Like even last week in practice, like he's out there, but he's kind of Cam last week. Cam was out there moving around, but they just can't do fully everything. And so, as a quarterback, you can be available as kind of an active guy. As a D lineman, it's kind of hard to push off. So I think when that first happened, I usually think of high ankle sprains being 4 to 6 weeks. So I expected it to be probably around now.
These short weeks, you probably got used to them in the NFL, so I'm not sure it's really new for you. But what maybe is different in a week like this, and are you aware of that you might have these every year because of a tolerance that Nebraska put in 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in the American and the MAC. When we were in the MAC, when I was an assistant coach, I couldn't tell you if it was Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday because we play a Thursday night, a Friday night, a Saturday night. The only thing tough is that you get back at we play these night games on the road. You get back so late, But thankfully the guys have. Thankfully it's a Friday night. So we played Thursday, we played Friday. We're gonna play another Friday. I don't really love night games very much because you're sitting around, especially on Fridays. At least on Saturdays you can watch other teams play. On Fridays you're watching, as the world turns or something. So it's not super ideal, but like I said, we're not going to, it is what it is. But yeah, the changes in the week, just kind of this week we'll keep our normal rhythm, except we brought him in on Monday. We did more last night, and I trust Mitch, our sports science guy. He just does a great job with the recovery and trying to make sure I don't do too much, to make sure they're fresh for Friday night.
When you're in a short week, do you try to condense the amount of things you're trying to fix in practice because you maybe don't have quite as much time?
Yeah, I think you have to condense. You have to condense what you're doing. Right? You know what I mean? Like, to me, in the NFL when you're going Sunday to Thursday, that's really hard. I remember when I was with Coach Coughlin, we just walked through that whole week. We went out and we played somebody, and we just ran kind of like our training camp offense, and we had more success because the guys are really familiar with it. And so I learned something there. But I think on a week like this, now you're playing a different defense, right? You're playing kind of a bear defense that plays some man, plays some zone. You're facing an offense that can be big. It can spread it out. They can get big on you. They can be little on you. So you have to face so many different things with Illinois. They're so well coached that you do have to prepare a lot. So we try to do a good job with walkthroughs. But again, that's why I said last night, we went out and practiced last night. Nothing's ever a punishment. It's always an opportunity, right? It's like an opportunity. We've got to get that game out of our system, and we've got to go compete. So I thought the guys, they had a great look about them when we got done last night.
Sorry. You talk about avoiding the outside noise with the players. Is there anything you can do other than tell the kids not to pay attention to anything outside? I mean, some coaches have banned social media or whatever. I mean, do you ever consider that?
No way. I don't even tell them. I don't tell them what to think because they're not going to listen to me anyway, right? I mean, I try to tell my son, hey, don't look at Twitter, and he's like, okay, as he's looking at Twitter, right? So, I think this is the modern world, right? And you have to decide where you put your attention to, right? So, if I'll just say this, if being 2-3 is the end of the world for us, then there's a lot of 2-3 teams in the Big Ten right now. Like we're facing one on Friday, so I think Nebraska's been 2-3 or some version of thereof the last couple of years. And when you look back at last year, when they got to this point last year, I thought they accelerated, right? The team got better and they had some chances to win games down the stretch. So why don't we just do that? That was the message last night was do that. So most important thing to me in this program is that the guys become great adults, and so I would never tell them to not look at this or look at that.
You've seen Illinois and their progression. What do you make of that, and just the principles that exist in Bielema's program? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I don't know Bret real well, other than just kind of since I've gotten into the league, right? He's, when you go to like the meetings, he's one of the more sort of stately, sort of elder statesman, weighs in on topics, has really good perspective. I think, obviously they've done you watched even early on, just kind of watching them from afar, like really kind of, ran the ball, played defense. They're much more diverse now, explosive. I think they do a great job of taking advantage of the guys that they have, right? They had a bunch of guys last year get drafted. They come back this year. They're tailoring what they do to those players. They do an excellent job. They're going to challenge you up front on their defensive line. They're going to challenge you up front offensively. Anytime you have a quarterback who can run, it's going to be a challenge. So it'll be a heck of a football game.
You talk about wanting your guys to attack and just go out and play. Is there anyone that you show them as a model that you've coached before is like, hey, this is what this looks like in terms of attacking?
I think I haven't done that. That's a great. I might do that now. I showed them the ones who did. I showed them Tommy Hill. Right? You guys probably saw. Tommy Hill took that kickoff return in that game, and after last week where he fumbled. Okay, and he fumbled last week, and he's the one who went down and got the ball. Okay, then he's playing both ways. He catches the kickoff return this week. He runs and he gets not hit hard. Right. He gets back up. He goes out. He continues to play on defense. We need him on offense. We yell for him. He goes on offense. It's at the end of the game, okay, and I say it's a 45 whatever, and I say I'm gonna put one of the young guys in. He's like, no, I'm going. It's like last week I took him off a kickoff because he was playing however many snaps. He's like, I'm going on kickoff. Don't ever take me off again. I said, gotcha, Tommy. Kickoff return. He goes out. He catches the ball. Doesn't get any great blocking. And if you go back and watch the play, like he literally carries people like 7 yards. And not everyone on the play is like pushing the pile for him. He carries people 7 yards. I told him when he walked off the field. I said, man. I said my own way. I said, I'll mess with you forever. Like I love guys like that, man. And from what I hear from people, maybe Tommy wouldn't have maybe done that last year. I don't know, but Tommy Hill, man, just give me a bunch of guys like that. So he doesn't want it easy. He wants it to be difficult, and loves to compete. So I showed the team that, so that they all know, like, hey, what's Coach Rhule looking for? I showed them that. And then tonight, we're going to show them what last night looked like, because last night was winning football. And then we're going to do the same thing tomorrow. So they'll get it.
All good?
Thanks, guys.
Matt Rhule, open, honest, candid, despite the fact that he is without question frustrated. He says, my job is to teach them how to win. So on Sunday, which is typically not a full pad, full practice day, the Huskers went at it. Of course, this is a quote-unquote Tuesday on the practice schedule, since Nebraska's game against Illinois this coming weekend is a Friday night game. Now, Purdue plays on Saturday. They will make their first Big Ten road trip of the year as they head to Kinnick Stadium to take on the Iowa Hawkeyes, trying to piece together 2 wins in a row after a really impressive victory over Illinois at home on Saturday. Here is Purdue head coach Ryan Walters.
You still, traditionally, they still want to run the ball first. They play with multiple tight ends, heavy sets. They are a throw second mentality, and the backup is a big guy. He's got a big arm, talented in that aspect. Not as mobile as the starter. So we'll take that into consideration on the way we're game planning. But they still have the same personnel around them. So. We got to be able to hold up in the run game, be able to hold up on the line of scrimmage, and be able to be creative with the ways we cover our tight ends.
The defense looked like it played outstanding, but having watched it back, I forgot that they had a couple of open, should have been touchdowns that were dropped or overthrown. So how do you address the secondary coverage where there's been a lot of big plays through the other team's passing games this season?
Yeah, the 2 times they were open, was on a double move like that. We also hit them on a double move, right? And then a play action pop pass where we lost eyes. But that is, that's the give and take where you are aggressive in the way you play the game defensively and trying to get hits on a quarterback. And when the quarterback gets hit as much as he did, you tend to overthrow those type of throws. And so I wasn't as concerned. Like I said, we can teach the technique on the double move. Got to be more patient with our eyes on the tight end. But, I think there's a reason why they missed those plays, and it's because we were in the backfield a lot.
What is the status of O.C. Brothers?
He should be available this week.
Plan on him getting his role back if that's the case, or if not, obviously Yanni had a great game on Saturday.
Yeah, I was really happy with the way Yanni played and with the way he prepared. So we'll see how this week's practice goes, but, Yanni played better than that position has played up to this point.
Ryan, what was the key to unlocking this run game over the past 2 weeks?
I think just a combination of things. One, I think our offensive line is playing better. Obviously, Gus getting inserted into the lineup and feeling comfortable helps, just with his experience, his athleticism, his mindset, the way he communicates. I think our running backs are starting to hit their groove, and we as an offensive staff are finding out what they're good at and what's their comfort level and the type of runs that we're calling. And I think the HUD's ability to push the ball down the field also helped to create favorable boxes to run the ball. And I thought Graham did a nice job of sticking to what was working. And anytime you can run the ball the way we did and have balance that way, it bodes well offensively for sure.
Do you have an update on Max Clare's status?
Still waiting on the diagnosis. It didn't look great, but we'll see.
And then obviously, if he were to miss time, you got Garrett Miller. Just can you talk about what he brings to the table and what you saw out of him on Saturday?
You talking about Garrett? Yes. Yeah. We're starting to see what everybody was talking about when I got here in December. Just his explosiveness down the field. He's a big guy that can move very very fluidly, and he's strong in the run game. He's got good hands. He's got a good feel for the game. He's a good football player, and I think as he gets more and more comfortable with the system, more and more comfortable, with overcoming the mental aspect, the mental hurdles of going through that type of injury, I think he'll play will only improve.
Hey, Ryan, can you talk about how you've just kept Devin Mockabee engaged? I know he had the fumble again, but you guys had him right back out there a series or two later and let him carry the ball at the goal line and score as well.
Yeah, one, you hold him accountable, right? Like nobody's happy with, including him, with the ball security issues that we've had. But he is hard to tackle. He's hard to bring down, and he runs with an edge. And so of course, he got to the sideline and we had a conversation. But at the end of the day, you want to keep him engaged because we're going to need him. He's a good player. He runs the football very well. And like I said, as going against him defensively, he was hard to bring down. And so you want him to continue to maximize his potential. And we're better when he is running the ball. And so you don't want to take the stinger out. You don't want to take his running style away from him, because that is part of who he is and why he's good. But he's got to understand, man, when he has the ball in his hands, he's got our program's life in his hands, and he's got to protect that at all costs.
You think it's a fair assessment to say that the offense has really developed an identity for running the football? That's become maybe the strength of the offense?
It was definitely the strength on Saturday. I do think that when we are playing with balance, it allows us to play with pace, which allows us to be aggressive, which opens up, every aspect of the offense. We were running the ball, so we were able to push it down the field, and we're throwing quick game to open up running lanes. And so I think, Graham he did a really good job of understanding what the defense was trying to do to us, how to counter that, and then when they adjusted, how to adjust based off of what pictures they were presenting, which is why we had the sort of offensive output that we did on Saturday.
Was the defense more aggressive than the first four games this last Saturday, as far as blitzes go and stunts, things of that nature?
Yeah, I would say so.
And then could you just talk about moving, I guess, the coordinators to the box a little bit, Graham and Kevin, why you decided to do that, and looks like it's going to happen again this week, and you had to be pleased with the results, I guess, from what we saw Saturday.
Yeah, so to answer both questions, I offensively, Graham has spent a lot of time in the box. He spent more time, up than he has down. And I think with Hudson's maturity and his understanding of the offense now, it allowed Graham to go up top, because you can see you can just see better from up there, right? You can see the rotations defensively. You can see alignments. You can see what happened, during the play from that bird's eye view a lot cleaner than you can from the sideline. And Graham's got great communication with Daggy, and Daggy's a former quarterback, and so he can talk to the cues when in between series to relay messages that Graham has. So that's why we made that move offensively, and obviously it worked. And so if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? We'll keep him up there. Then defensively is the same thing. Kane for the last 2 years, and even when he was at SMU was upstairs, and so I felt like the communication that he and I had the last 2 seasons when he was in the box was very informative and quick and concise. And nobody knows the defense or the signals the way I do, and so it just made sense for him to go upstairs and for me to be signaling and for us to communicate that way on game day.
Just talk about Iowa and their ability to win games and special teams and defense, and you've seen them obviously over the years. Yes, on paper they've got some issues with injuries, et cetera. What makes them especially dangerous, or is that really what makes them especially dangerous to you?
Yeah, so to me, what makes them dangerous is that Iowa's going to be Iowa, and they have been since 1999. They're going to play really, really sound defense and not make mistakes. They're going to make you earn it. Special teams is going to be a weapon for them. And then they're going to manage the game on offense and not try to do things just to do them. They're going to try to control the clock, and if they can win a game 9-6, they that's the style of play that they like. And I know people out that way are upset with that model, but it's worked since 1999. And so I getting to know Coach Ferentz over the last couple of years, and then now. As a head coach, like you just tell, like that program operates the way it operates, and they don't care what anybody else thinks about it because that has been a winning formula for them. So we'll have to do a good job of not letting them dictate the pace, dictate the tempo, or dictate the style of play, and try to do everything we can to play our brand of ball and make them adjust to it. Yep. Thanks.
Some good news coming from West Lafayette after the win. Ryan Walter saying OC Brothers should be available to play against the Hawkeyes this weekend. And Yanni Karloftis, kind of channeling his big bro, played better at that position than anyone has so far this season. Walters wouldn't commit to Yanni being the starter, but it certainly seems that way coming up this weekend against the Hawkeyes. Not the start we were expecting from Illinois this season after what the Illini did in 2022 under Bret Bielema, but through 5 games, Illinois just 2-3 following a disappointing loss on the road, 44-19. The Illini go down to Purdue. Back home this week, short week. It's Friday night against Nebraska. Looking back on the Purdue loss, looking ahead to the Nebraska showdown, here's Bret Bielema.
Well, obviously not an easy Sunday. Mondays always get a little better, but I thought our guys, handled the quiet bus ride home. A lot of pain in the end of that game. But the key to a Sunday is learning from yesterday's mistakes and turning the page. So with a short bye week, that's a short game week. We got to really do a better job of that. So we basically met with them, showed them some things that were positive. Obviously started the game on a positive note offensively to have a play gain that kind of yards. Obviously would have loved to come away with points, but we did start the game with a scoring opportunity. Defensively started pretty well, put in some tough positions and overcame that moment. But obviously a lot of things we needed to correct, especially in that second half. So from an injury standpoint, I think Reggie, he did practice last week, earlier in the week, didn't feel great Thursday, Friday, let the game time decision on Saturday play out. The plan is tomorrow he'll be with us for practice. Our first practice of the week will be tomorrow. We'll go through a walkthrough tonight, but it won't be full speed. So he'll be able to take place in that. Zai hopefully will as well. Zai and Geske are both a work in progress to see where they get for the weekend. But other than that, there were some guys that played in the game that were a little banged up. They got through it pretty good overall. So really shouldn't be any issues other than that. Nebraska is very similar to our situation. They're 2-3, identical records actually. Both of us have 2 losses in conference play, so there's a lot of different variables going into it, but I think this week is a lot about us. Obviously, Nebraska and what they've accomplished. Played a couple different quarterbacks. They're playing really good on defense. A very difficult challenge. And then Friday night with a short week is one that we've already done this year, so we kind of really I spent yesterday a lot of time looking at what we did in that Kansas prep, just the logistics of it. I didn't love the results, but more along the lines of preparation. So we're changing that up a little bit on our approach either tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday before the game to go in from there. So with that, open up for questions.
Isaiah Williams has said that one of your messages in the locker room was we have to get better than any team in the country over the course of this week. How important, maybe it's too open of a question, but how important is this week for you guys?
How important is the week? I think every week is important. I think when it comes after a loss, it just comes a little more scrutiny from the outside world, which is obviously part of the world we live in. So nothing different there. I think each week, what I can assure everybody is every Saturday, right, we play a game, and every Sunday, the way we go about our business is really the same. We're very hard on ourselves, very critical. It's just when it's after a loss, and you just hear it from multiple different levels as well. So. I did make the comment to them. I was kind of stressing the importance of the week more than anything, just that. But I believe that obviously we're a 2-3 football team that doesn't like where we're at, but it is a fact of the case. So I think if we don't have that approach, I would be doing an injustice to them.
Not taking anything away from your opponents, but how much do you feel like you're beating yourself as opposed to opponents?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think one of the things you guys have routinely heard me say: more games are lost than won. And the key ingredient to losing that we stress to our players from the first day I got here to where we are today are penalties, mental errors, and turnovers. And the NCAA, because the mental error is not really a statistic in the NCAA football manual, but penalties and turnovers are, and we're not very good in those two. So I think our guys understand the importance of that. The second thing we probably pride ourselves on is being tough, smart, dependable, and that has to be a resilient part of our program. The way we recruit, the way we coach, the way that we obviously play the game is a big part of that, and I think those two elements right there together are really what's missing from us. Really tried to stress consistency last week. Obviously we're still down 16-13 to half. We spotted them a 6-point off that turnover. You're in a game that I feel is a very winnable game, and to this point, like to replay it back on Sunday, even kind of manifest that more than ever. Just the ability to take place and make critical plays when they happen. We as coaches have to be really hard on ourselves about what we're asking our guys to do, but I do think what we've done, we've played some good teams, played some good opponents, but that was a 1-3 football team that we lost to, right? So we can't ignore that and obviously move forward into a game plan against Nebraska.
Coach, you've got a good set of commits so far at this point. When you struggle like this, do you hear from those players? You reach out to them, kind of say, "Hey, we're fine." How do you interact with the players when you're in this situation?
Yeah, I think in recruiting, much like you do with your own players, once you get a commitment from a player, you kind of treat them as though you're part of your program. I would say that as coaches in general, Sunday night I think recruiting calls are made quite a bit, but Monday, Tuesday, you kind of focus on where you're at. For me personally, I reach out to a lot of guys Wednesday, Thursday. I think last week on that Thursday night, there were we have 18 committed guys. I believe I talked to 13 or 14 that night. Just sit there for about a 2-hour window and just talk. I really like where our guys are at. We'll be getting into a bye week here in a couple of weeks where we traditionally have gone out and seen those guys, but by NCAA rules you can't do it. But I think one of the reasons we've been able to have some success here over the last 2 years is because of the momentum we've gained in recruiting and going after the right type of guys that want to come to Illinois with a chip on their shoulder, and I don't really see that changing.
Is the comments different than a year ago when you're, off to a great start and winning all those games? Was the tone similar or different?
No. Last year we started off 1-1, if you remember, right? And I talked to them pretty much every week. So I just think as a coach, through 15 years in this business, you understand the highs and the lows. You persevere through the lows and try to ride the highs. But I think each call and each person, each player is an individual scenario.
The change in the short week preparation, were you making notes during the Kansas week and the result was what it was, or are you making changes because of the result?
Yeah, man, that's a great point. One of the things I really try to ask our guys on Thursdays and Fridays during a normal game week preparation is if it's a Saturday game on Thursdays, we have a staff meeting we have an academic Zoom at 2 o'clock, so we have our last staff meeting on Thursdays at 3 o'clock. I try to let everybody out the door by 4:30 just so one night a week they get to have a family night at home. So, but in that meeting, one of the last things I usually say is, hey, take an inventory of how you felt the week has gone. How do you feel Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday went? Make a note of it for yourself, but also for me, like anything we feel we can adjust, adapt. I literally had a meeting with Tank about an hour ago. We meet literally every day, just kind of, he had an early lifting group today because today is a work day for us. Usually Monday's a day off, but we had our entire roster in this morning for a lift this morning at 8:30, 9:30, and then we have them over this evening. So Tank and I are in constant dialogue, just kind of, hey, where are they at? Not just from his standpoint, he's a strength coach, but he's got a really good pulse on our guys mentally. I talk routinely every day with Jeremy Bush, who's our head trainer. Leah's our nutritionist. Anybody that touches our players, I talk probably more than any other head coach, I would imagine. Mike Maziart's our academic coordinator, and literally I have a constant dialogue with him. Anybody that has a pulse or a beat with our players, I want to having a conversation with them what our guys are like.
Work through Zy and Geski's availability. Is there any thought to move Isaiah Adams back in, or do you feel like right tackle's the spot that fits where you guys
Yeah,
are?
as of right now, no. We since literally week one, we've had a lot of conversations. I think Isaiah just played his best game at right tackle. Julian by far. One of the things that gets lost in a loss is players that played well. Julian Pearl played extremely well at left tackle. And a guy like Dylan Rosiak played pretty good at inside linebacker. So there's some guys that probably played really good football that we tend to ignore. And Isaiah took a step in the right direction for sure. I think for us, competitively, we're trying to get our 5 best on the field. And obviously, Zion Geske, one of the downfalls to Saturday was Geske at that point was probably having the best game of his time. He got injured early in the game, tried to come back in, played a little bit, I think wasn't full go, and then ultimately had to get pulled. So the downfall to that is he's a guy that was starting to play really well.
Ideally, what would you like to be known for offensively, and is that a conversation that's ongoing with Coach Lenny?
Yeah, I think every year your offense takes on, the demeanor of that year. Obviously, last year, I think on the forefront of it, we probably felt really good about, Chase. That year before he had scratched the surface of a 1,000-yard season, but we lost the quarterback that we had called our starter, right? And then had Tommy DeVito coming in, so you really didn't know what he had played. We knew he was going to be the starter, probably coming out of spring ball. But wanted to give you guys some discussion topics to talk about, right? So kind of like this year, I think coming out of the spring game, we had an idea that Luke was going to be our quarterback. Thought that Reggie and Josh would be a combination platter for our tailback. We thought we had a group of receivers in Isaiah, Casey, and Pat that we felt probably were pretty good players at the tight end position. Tip, we had added Tanner Arkin, but I really thought that Henry Boyer and Griffin Moore were going to do some things for us at tight end. And then the offensive lines, I missed the entire spring, so we didn't have him in the lineup, and we were trying to work our way through. We thought we had a couple players that possibly could join us in the fall. That didn't materialize. So the work in progress was probably the offensive line, and I think that's probably stayed true. For us going into Game 6, I definitely understand the question. Our offensive identity, probably hasn't come out. I think there's an idea of what we want it to be, but it's definitely a conversation that Barry and I and the offense staff and our players really. I think the one enlightening thing to me yesterday was not just offensively, defensive, special teams, just the guys that I've talked to, the guys I've met with individually, the guys that voiced themselves not only during the game but after the game. There's a genuine appreciation for them that they want to play better, right? I think there's not a lot I can say other than I know a lot of people hang on the ebb and flow of our program on a weekly basis, and I appreciate that, and I love that. Part of what makes our job great. But nobody's more in tune to that than our players and coaches. And I think we firsthand know as coaches, myself as a head coach, I got to coach better. Coaches know they got to coach better, and the players know they got to play better.
Last year after the Michigan, or I guess before the Michigan game, after the back-to-back losses, you talked about player leadership and what you got from your captains that week and how you could tell things were, being taken.
Yeah.
Can you share anything after these two
losses?
Yeah,
I kind of keep. I know you understand where I'm coming from. We keep some of that stuff in-house, but I have heard from literally immediately after the game to on a bus ride home to players speaking yesterday that there's definitely, I think the guys that we would foresee as leaders, guys that were elected to those positions, have taken on a leadership role probably more than I have at any point this season. So I think that's a positive step in the right direction. Kind of excited to get out here on the lights tonight and see exactly where they're at. But I've said this before, everybody concentrates on the players you lose. For me, what I've learned in 15 years, it's a lot of times it's the voices you lose, right? And sometimes players can be a little bit more easily replaced than a voice, right? I don't think people understand how valuable it is for a person to say the right thing at the right time to the right person in the most appropriate way, right? Because I always used to get frustrated when I was a young player. I'm like, that coach treats me different, or that coach treats that player different. And I always say coaches they do play favorites. They play the guy that gives the best chance for their players to have success, right? My responsibility when I was an inside linebacker coach was to put the 2 best inside backers on the field that gave the other 9 guys a chance to be successful. I learned that from Hayden Fry and really took that approach all the way through. When I was a coordinator, I needed to put the best 11 defensive players on the field that gave our chance to be successful. It may mean moving a player off the field at certain times, moving them to a different position, but your responsibility is to put the best 11 on any given play to make success. And I think that's a challenge as a coach, and for as a player to understand that same thing, reciprocal of that, is a big deal.
This week's prep, what's different about Nebraska under the new coach, Matt Rhule, than what you've prepared for before?
Yeah, I think good question. The obvious things are obviously the changes that have taken place schematically, offense, defense, special teams. They got new people and new positions. There's new schemes, and then offensively, there's a difference in quarterbacks between the first couple games and the last couple. Defensively, they're very aggressive, multiple special teams. A guy that's got a vast number of experience. They've kind of done some different things schematically in special teams as well. So all three phases present different scheme options, but it's about how you play the game.
Obviously, personnel changes year over year, but it seems like last year we saw more short yardage, like sneaks or under center.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys just don't feel is a match with this personnel? I just don't know that we've seen it.
Yeah, no, great question. I think overall, the QB sneak a year ago was probably something Tommy felt really good with. It's just something that wasn't as good a feeling as we have this year. I've learned this in my 15 years in the business. Probably one of the most decorated quarterbacks I ever coached was Russell Wilson. In his college football career with me, he had one quarterback sneak that ended up in a fumble, and we never saw it again. But we were pretty good, right? So, I understand what you're asking. I think part of your point is, to find identity. It's in all phases of offense. It's not just first down, second down, third down. It's in short yardage. It's in goal line. It's in 2-minute, end of half, end of game. You got to find an identity in all those phases, which is a little bit easier said than done.
Special teams wise, our kick returns, is that a judgment call by the returner out there, just in terms of
Nope. It's a game plan decision first off, right, and then a little bit based on wind conditions. A little bit unique in the fact of what we saw Saturday. When we first went out there, the wind was blowing a certain direction. Literally, by the time we came back out after the coin toss, it flipped and gone the other way. So we got to stay on top of it and in which way we're kicking the ball and also receiving. And then I would say that each return game in the punt return and kick return is given a parameter of what they need to do to take the ball as a fair catch or move forward.
Uncertainty, I guess, health-wise with the offensive line, does it change potentially that pool of players that you talked about you want to be able to draw on at the offensive line? Are there guys you consider pulling up from the Devo into the second team or whatever?
Yeah. I get the question, but kind of like what we said earlier, I think you have to go into each week with an idea of who's healthy. Right now, if I don't have Zion and Geske, that means 2 new people are added in the lineup just by default. So I think as you go through this week, a little bit determines on what guys are available, who's available to play, and obviously what gives us the best chance. But you always look at, we traveled anywhere from 10 to 12 players on the offensive line. I don't think there's going to be anybody that comes outside of that circle because we have already traveled, 3 guys that are kind of, Brandon Henderson being the most prevalent and T.J. McMillan, who are the only guys that are redshirt, could redshirt but play. And those guys have been in every game.
A lot of the conversation in the offseason was more pass rush value from the outside backers.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason to hire Charlie. How do you feel like that's manifested to these first?
Well, we haven't probably gotten consistent pass rush, as a whole through the first 5 games. But I do think as a point of emphasis, unfortunately, we had, Alec wasn't full strength last week. He did play in the game, but he's good now. But he was a guy that we didn't know if we were going to have. That brought, I'm sure you probably saw, Zeke was out there for the first time, extended action. So we were a little bit thin, and then us just schematically, we had to adjust a little bit defensively just because we weren't sure we were going to have enough bodies at the outside backer position. But everybody's back to full strength now. I think Seth, Gabe Backus, and Alec Bryan, and then a little bit of Zeke to Jared Beatty, and maybe the defensive line in general. We began to pressure the passer a little bit better on Saturday. Obviously came with a couple of huge stabs, did a couple things on third down. Josh Kreutz got that huge play. That was the hair of a chinny chin chin being a safety. So I like to step in the direction that we made. Defensively, is obviously the score, but I made 3 decisions that we just needed to have the ball in our offensive hand. I knew we were down by 3 scores. It made no sense to do anything but try to get a first down in the situation we're in, but that gave the defense the short end of the field on 2 occasions specifically, and then obviously the scoop and score 7 points is no way to spot. Can't spot an offense 3 touchdowns and expect them winning games.
Reggie Love, presumably coming back, do you still see,
What's that?
with Reggie coming back, do you still see a role for Caden Fagan? Can he still help you?
Yeah, I said Reggie, we're going to hopefully get him back. We'll see where he's at as it goes. I think Caden Fagan, through 5 games now, has definitely shown the value that he brings. He's an exciting player. I think he's fitting more and more comfortable and feeling better and better about where he is. And I thought the last 2 weeks in particular, he felt really good in all situations. I really admire the way he's kind of just steadily grown each week, kind of made his mark. Last week you could see him burst through the hole, especially on that one play. Like, he's just a big body that gets through little areas, and he's got a lot of velocity when he runs.
Out of the tight end room right now through 5 games.
You know, I've been pretty impressed with Tip. I thought Tip is a guy, Tip has 2 years of eligibility, and I think he went into the season with the idea of this being his last, but I think he's a guy that on the verge of, he's playing pretty good right now. I expect him to continue to play better, but he's taken his game to a different level, caught the ball extremely well. He's been pretty good inline blocking. I've used him a lot on movement stuff. Griffin Moore brings an element that I think is really good. There was a play there that I thought he had a chance on 3rd down. He got tugged on the coattail twice that prevented a play from happening, but I really like what he brings to the game. And then Henry Boyer, Henry missed most of fall camp. Guy with a red shirt a year ago, and I gave him a lot of credit. He's found a way to get himself out there and play, and I think that room in general, hopefully on the back end of our season here, is going to be able to give us a lot in Big Ten play. Yeah, I think the bigger we get, 13, you've seen it. We've had 3 tight ends out there. I don't think you can plan much bigger than that. I don't think we're a 4 tight end team, but 13 has definitely been in our game plan the last 2 weeks. I don't think we saw it Saturday just by the flow of the game, but that's definitely something that I know our guys offensively feel good about.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, Bret Bielema said he's not very happy right now with the way he's coaching, says he has to coach better, but he does not mince any words. He always says it just like it is, and says his best teams, they avoid mental errors, turnovers, they're tough, smart, and dependable. Those things are not happening right now. According to Bielema, after that loss to Purdue, quote, that was a 1-3 football team we lost to, and we cannot ignore that. To start strong, win the games they're supposed to win. Like last Saturday's matchup against Rutgers, that was not much of a matchup at all. Gavin Wimsatt, once again, quietly efficient, 12 of 19, 146 yards, 3 total touchdowns. Scarlet Knight defense completely shutting down Wagner in the 52-3 win. That moves Rutgers to 4-1 on the season. Of course, the only loss at the Big House to then number 2 Michigan. Back on the road in the Big Ten this weekend as Rutgers heads to Madison to take on Wisconsin. Let's head to Piscataway and listen in to Rutgers head coach Greg Schiano.
Showing up, guys. Appreciate it. Big game coming up this week out in Wisconsin. Before we get to that, I want to have a shout out to my guy Pop. What a great game he played last night. Really cool for him. Isaiah Pacheco coming home to the great state of New Jersey and really showing out and being a big part of their win. I was really proud of him, and I know everyone in our program is excited and happy for him. So with that, I'll open up for questions about Wisconsin.
Greg, when you look at what Wisconsin's offense is doing under Phil Longo this season, I guess kind of what stands out to you on film and how productive they've been?
Yeah, they do a great job. Phil does a great job. Their offense is hard to stop, multidimensional. People kind of get, when they hear about tempo and they hear about air raid, they think it's just throw it all over the lot. They do a great job running the football. They have several different schemes that they run the football with, so it's going to be a huge challenge for all those reasons. And the biggest reason is good players.
Greg, Evan only has 1 interception in 106 throws across 5 games. You've touched on how that being a big improvement, him not turning the ball over. How much of that is him and his personal growth and development, and how much of that is, Kirk Schrocker working with him and the play calls he gives him in the games?
Well, I think that's all one and the same. I mean, other than the play calls, what Kirk does as a coach and what Gavin does as a player, that's how they mesh together, and that's why it works so well right now. It's a continual effort. You're as good as your last outing. So we just got to keep working at it, and he'll keep getting better. And, Kirk calls the game, and he calls it the way he sees fit.
Coming in to this season, I know Rutgers wanted to be very balanced offensively. Do you feel like you guys have been effective in creating that balance?
Yeah, I don't know if balance is always the key. It's whatever it takes to win the game. So if they're giving you the throws, then we'll throw for a lot of yards and, devalue the running game. But if you can run it, then you want to run it, right? And I always think it has a lot to do. You have a game plan, but then you have to go with what the opponent is giving you. So I think it's it's nice when it turns out like that, but you can't really predict it because they have a big say in it.
Coach, just to build off of what you said on Wisconsin's offense, on the defensive side of the ball, what sort of stands out to you about what the Badgers do in that respect?
Well, I should build on the offense more because I didn't talk about the players. I just said the players. I mean, you look at Moradici, I think I said that right. He's a really fine player. He can throw it, he can run, does a great job reading. Their back, Allen, is special. He's big, 6'2", 245. I mean, he is a load. And it's not one of those guys that can't move and doesn't have the ability to cut. He's special. They got a big veteran O-line, which helps a lot. Their tight ends are good players. They utilize the tight ends. Rhule is one of them. I actually coached his dad at Penn State, so, athletic family there. And then the receivers, there's 5 or 6 guys. They roll them in there, and they're all dangerous. They can all hurt you. So Coach Longo does a great job, and he's got a lot of good weapons there to utilize. Defensively, I think their front 7 is really strong. They play with great technique. They play with great effort. Their hands, very heavy-handed front. Their linebackers, they have actually 3 or 4 of them that are really fine players. We've seen some of them in the past, but good players. Really, front 7 is going to be tough, very tough physically, and they're really good at hitting their fits. And in the secondary, they go after the football. They're very aggressive. So, and then in special teams, they're really good. They have good personnel, big personnel that can run, and they utilize them on their team. So it's going to be a challenge in every area. And I know Coach Fickell well. He's an excellent coach. We worked together for a year. One of the best coaches I've been around, literally from a X and O standpoint, from a motivation standpoint, just everything. And a great man, great family. He really does an awesome job. He did it at Cincinnati. He'll do it there. Really, like I said, one of the best I've been around.
Coach, assessing the first 5 games of the season, what's something you think Rutgers can improve on as a whole during the next 7 games, and obviously, the all-out Big Ten schedule?
Yeah, I'm just focused on one game, and that's Wisconsin. And we have a lot of things to get better at for the Wisconsin game. So you name it, we have to get better at it. But we got to get, up front on offense and defense. We got to be more precise. Continue to play with effort. In the secondary, in the skilled areas, just tighten it up a little bit, tighten the coverage up a little bit, tighten the techniques up a little bit. The receiving core, some of the routes, some of the depth, some of the techniques we're using, we have to tighten it up. So there's a lot to get better at right now. But the good thing is we get to practice this week, and to me, practice is everything.
Greg, this offseason, the NCAA implemented a new rule for first downs where the clock keeps running. A lot of coaches have been complaining about it on TV and social media, but I wanted to hear your overall thoughts.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Whatever they make the rules, we play it. You could see that it's shortening the game a little bit, and I understand why. I mean, you can't talk out of both ends of your mouth. We all want all this money to come in, right? Well, TV is what provides that money. And they like to have those games in a nice, neat little time frame. And, hey, it's pretty good.
You guys are playing a road game against one of the iconic brands in the Big Ten, maybe still the favorite to win the Big Ten West. Do you view this as an opportunity, as maybe, for a signature win, a kind of win that fans can really hang their hat on and say, Rutgers got a big win at Wisconsin?
It's a big game. I very, very careful looking at that and saying, this would be an iconic brand, or this is a big win, or whatever you want to call it. We have one goal. It's to be 1-0 at the end of this Wisconsin season. And it's hard. We got a lot of work to do. We're in the middle of it right now, putting it together. But we as a staff, and then as a whole organization, as a team, we have a lot of work to do between now and Saturday. And they're very good. So we're going to do everything we can to go out there and like I said, be 1-0 when we leave that stadium. But they're good. They're really good.
I just want to go back to something you were saying the other day about how this team is learning to do things that winning teams do that maybe a lot of people don't see. I mean, when did you kind of, and it might be tough to pinpoint, but when did you kind of start to see the progression that this team is getting to that point and starting to understand what it takes to win on a consistent level?
Yeah, winning, what does that mean? It means that leaders take care of things that happen, guys late to something. It's not acceptable anymore. As a matter of fact, it really stands out if you're late, if you don't do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. When the leadership takes that over and they handle that's when things start to go differently. And because, you know, it's the same old deal, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. And if you can't be on time for something, then how do we know you're going to stay in the B gap? You know, and it's trust. And doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it is hard, really hard.
I know after the game you talked a little bit about Johnny Shepard, although you talked about him. What did you see from him in high school? Because he wasn't a highly recruited guy. He was local in your backyard. But what did you see from him? What did you think of his performance on Saturday with the few snaps he got?
In high school, I saw a great competitor that was a winner. He's really changed his body. And if you saw him in high school, he looked more like a middle linebacker than he did a quarterback. But he played quarterback like a middle linebacker, which is something I loved. But you talk about reshaping his body. He has a great feel for the game. He's a football player, very instinctual. Yeah, so we're thrilled to get the chance to keep developing him.
Coach, you talked about, you know, Gavin's development as a quarterback, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on, you know, do you feel like you're seeing him get a much better rhythm and chemistry, whatever word you want to use, with his receivers as the season has gone on?
Well, I think, you know, with Jaquay being out for part of camp, for most of camp, they're just kind of hitting their stride together. I think Isaiah and Christian have been practicing the whole time, so I think they have a groove going. But, you know, you can't throw enough to your receivers, and you can't throw enough routes to get, you know, you can only get more comfortable with the timing and rhythm. And time, practice, you know, those guys stay out after and throw on their own. You know, if you have a burning desire to do it, you'll get better, and those guys do.
We didn't ask you about him after the game. Rene Conga looked like he limped off in the fourth quarter. Just, do you have anything on how he's doing?
Yeah, you know, he'll probably be okay, but that'll all go to the availability report. We'll just kind of stick with that so we don't get too variable.
Final question?
You touched on Bo Masco having an NCAA deal. Is there anything else you can share detail-wise on that?
Yeah, you know, with the NCAA, I really try to, believe me, I'd love to say a lot, but I really try to keep my mouth shut because it can only hurt them, and I don't want to do that. My own personal frustrations, I have to have some self-control and not let that out. But yeah, hopefully that, you know, I would love for those to get resolved, both of them, but that's not been kind of the flow or the vibe this year. You know, those things haven't been worked out very much. One of the good things that I'd like to talk about, you know, when it comes to off the field stuff is Mayan Ahanatu. Mayan is named a semifinalist for the Campbell Trophy, which is really probably the ultimate award in college football, right? It's a high level football player who's an excellent student. So what an honor that is for him, and I've known him since he was a teenager. You know, hanging out in my house with my sons and coaching them when I was coaching high school football down in Tampa. So couldn't be more thrilled. A guy who's taken, you know, came here, transferred in, and has just become the ultimate leader of our team. You know, he's become a really, really solid young man, and this is a warranted chance that he's getting here as a semifinalist, and it's a great award. So we're thrilled for that. And you know, we're getting into it now. Tests, kids all have the tests this week, and they've been in school now for over a month. So this is where the student-athlete part really gets highlighted. And what does that mean? That means guys are up late writing papers and getting ready for tests and that kind of stuff. So it's a challenge right now. So we're looking forward to getting on that plane and going out to Wisconsin. And like I said, the goal is to be 1-0 when we get back on the plane. But we got to go do it. Thanks, guys.
Now, if you watched Isaiah Pacheco at Rutgers, you saw a really good player. Not sure a lot of folks thought he would be the kind of impact NFL player that he has been. And on Sunday night, Pacheco and the Chiefs went back to the New York, New Jersey area, take on the Jets. And Schiano couldn't help himself. What a great game he played last night. Called him Pop, his nickname. Really cool for him, Isaiah Pacheco, coming home to the great state of Jersey and really showing out and being a big part of that win. We are back on Big Ten Live. One final coach to hear from on this Monday Coach's Press Conference edition, and that coach is David Braun. Listen, it was a really tough ask against Penn State. Hung tight with the Nittany Lions for a little while before fading late. Penn State wins that game 41-13. Still 2-3 with a very winnable game, a game Northwestern should win this weekend against Howard. And if you had told this program, certainly those on the outside, through 6 games, they'd have a chance to be 3-3. Pretty much everybody would have been impressed and would have taken it. As for David Braun, let's get his opinion now as we head to Evanston and listen in to the Northwestern head coach.
Excited to be back with the guys today. Had an opportunity this morning to review Saturday, to review Penn State. Certainly some opportunities for us to continue to have conversations about what this team's capable of. The challenge moving forward is, what this team can truly be capable of when it finds a way to play a full 4 quarters. When we do that as a coaching staff, as a program, we can talk about 2 quarters, fast start. There's plenty of positives to pull from, but at the end of the day, our guys prepared in a way that they expected victory. They expected to go in and compete and find a way to beat Penn State, even though those on the outside certainly didn't expect that. The group in that locker room did, and was certainly very, very disappointed with the result. Specifically the way that we closed out the game in the second half and in the fourth quarter. And I think that's the thing that we need to continue to challenge ourselves on is. There's going to be people that pat you on the back and say, "Hey, that was a great first half." Well, we prepared to win a football game, prepared to play a full 4 quarters or however long it takes, and I think that gives us an opportunity as a team to continue to take full ownership in our performance and continue to take full ownership in the things that we need to continue to improve upon. Moving forward and turning the page. Our guys will return this afternoon. We'll start to install our game plan for Howard. Great opportunity for us to be playing back at Ryan Field on homecoming, against a very good football team. A team that's scoring a lot of points right now offensively, battled their tails off against a good Eastern Michigan team. And, we're going to have to be at our best. We're going to have to be at our best this afternoon. We're going to have a great week of preparation. The standard has been set in terms of what that's supposed to look like, the urgency and the detail that needs to go into that. And, I've challenged myself. I've challenged this group, moving into this afternoon and moving into the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday into Friday and Saturday morning, that we make sure that we embody that and put our best foot forward and ensure that the best version of this team shows up on Saturday.
Coach, do you have any update on Ben Bryant's injury status, and if he can't go, will Brendan be the starter on Saturday?
Not specifically. We're what I can tell you about Ben. That dude is tough. He's gritty. He's a warrior. He's going to do everything in his power to get back to full health and be ready to play. Not sure what that looks like in terms of timeline by Saturday. If Ben weren't able to go. As of right now, would anticipate Brendan going, just in terms of Brendan's earned that opportunity. He's played well in his opportunities to come in and spell Ben. But as of right now, we're moving forward, anticipating that Ben will be ready to go.
And just as a follow-up to that, is there any consideration with playing Howard, an FCS opponent, and then having the bye week? Is there any consideration to letting Ben have almost 3 full weeks to prepare and get healthy before going on the rest of this Big Ten West stretch?
That's a great question, but to answer very directly, absolutely not. This is a darn good football team coming in here. Maybe it's my background, coming from Division II and FCS, but you can put whatever letters or numbers next to a team's name. There's darn good football at all levels, and we look at this opponent the same that we would look at any opponent, an opponent that's plenty capable of giving us a run for our money and beating us if we don't show up at our best. So we'll put our best foot forward.
Coach, kind of going off that big emotional game against Penn State, now you have an FCS opponent and a bye week. How do you keep the team staff focused and locked in and don't get them looking ahead?
Just continue to remind everyone how critical every single game and every single opportunity is. Challenge the group coming off of Minnesota. An emotional high. Emotional high is really hard to come off of sometimes. I thought our guys handled that for the most part really, really well. Well, now we're coming kind of off an emotional low. A good first half, we're in a game, we're in a battle, and then, the way things played out in the second half, our guys were frustrated and, not satisfied with the result. If anything, we should have a group that is more hungry than ever to go play our best football. And again, you will not hear me once refer to our upcoming opponent as anything other than a really good opponent that we better be at our best at. So I promise you, in these walls, there's no mention of FCS. This is a team that we better strap it up, bring our urgency, bring our edge, and be ready to roll.
Right. Well, I'm going to mention one more time. When you're at North Dakota State, when you were preparing teams to go up against FBS opponents, what was your message to them?
Yeah, our message, was consistently bring on the competition. And it didn't matter who we were playing. That was a message to our team about, bring our best. You bring our best on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then, make sure that carries into Saturday. It didn't matter if we were playing, the Chicago Bears or, a D2 school that, was coming into the Fargo Dome. Bring on the competition and show up at our best. So, that was the message from us coming at the FCS level. I'm very confident that I have a firm understanding of what that level of football brings week in and week out, and it's darn good football. Those guys are on scholarship. There's a lot of NFL football players that are roaming around FCS schools, and I think I'll have an opportunity to make that very clear. Pulling from my experience at North Dakota State.
You have 5 games under your belt as a head coach at the Power 5 Big Ten level with homecoming coming up, a lot of alumni coming to this game. Do you feel like you had a chance to reflect that it's not just the newness of being a coach, but you're fully ingrained in this moving forward?
Opportunity to reflect, no, probably not. But what I will mention, there is a great deal of gratitude from both Kristen and I, and just from the support for our players, for our staff, the people that we're doing this with. It's pretty neat, with our team this morning, talking with our leadership and talking with our team. I think where they felt tangible support day in and day out is from obviously, their parents and their teammates, but the outpouring of support from former Northwestern football players, the alumni, what those men have meant to, the guys in our current locker room is just words can't express it. And I think this is an opportunity for us on homecoming as a team to just honor those that have worn the uniform, worn the jersey, and walked in our shoes.
Coach, you talked about Sullivan earning the spot, right? Can you talk about, or just like, how'd you evaluate his play on the game Saturday and just moving forward?
I think it was, in typical Brendan fashion, it was tough, it was gritty, it was, doing whatever he could to just keep battling with his team. I know, the last play, made or not last play, but the interception is a choice and a decision he'd love to have back. But what I can tell you unequivocally, without a doubt, is, I've spoken about the quality of that room as a whole from the start. I've spoken to the fact that Ben Bryant is our starting quarterback, but the depth that exists in that room with Brendan, the leadership that exists with Brendan, what Ryan Holinsky brings to that room, the leadership that Ryan brings to this football team, what Jack Lausch has done for this offense in terms of his versatility. Regardless of how this moves forward, we're anticipating, expecting Ben to be able to go, but regardless of how that plays out moving forward, very confident in Brendan's ability to step in and help this team go win, and very confident in that room as a whole in terms of their ability to prepare to get this team to a point where we can expect great execution and performance out of the quarterback position.
Coach, what have you seen from Carmine Bastone this year, and what was it mean to you to see a former walk-on player playing this high-level football at the Big Ten level?
Yeah, no, I think Carmine embodies so many of the qualities that we value here at Northwestern, for many reasons. High academic, engineering major, understands what this degree from Northwestern will do for him, the next 40 years, not just the next 4. Toughness, perseverance, great teammate, willing to step up with courage and coach other guys and hold other guys accountable. And I think it speaks to what we want to continue to build here. We want to recruit, high-end, high-character young men that want to come to Northwestern. They're willing to walk on. They're willing to, put a lot of time, effort, and energy into maximizing their potential and with hopes of earning a scholarship. And Carmine has done just that. I mean, that's pretty special, and we need to continue to lean into that for this program to continue to go to the places that we want it to. There's a long history of that here at Northwestern, of young men that have earned scholarship, that have come here as walk-ons, and Carmine is just such a great example to point to of what needs to continue to happen here.
Coach, Jack Olson is off to a perfect start this year on field goals and extra points. How much does it help a team to have a consistent kicker, and what are your thoughts on his performance so far? Really
proud of his performance. Again, another young man that has earned opportunity. Another young man that it hasn't been the easiest path for him. Dealing with some nicks and bruises along the way since he arrived here at Northwestern. And I think he just brings a great deal of confidence to this team, to myself, to Coach Jenick, and to the offense as a whole, in terms of knowing that if a drive does stall out in the red zone, that we're not coming up empty-handed. With his consistency, we can be very confident of trotting him out there and expecting to come back with 3 points.
You've had 3 different players with Jack, Henry Helms, and Luke Akers handle 5 or more kickoffs. What's the thought process on rotating guys through that role?
Part of it is just kind of who's got the hot foot, in terms of who's kicking well. Part of it is just splitting the load with multiple kickoffs at times and handling field goal and PAT duty that can start to potentially wear on a guy. Location of where we're putting the ball is such a critical piece of that as well. But there's a lot of factors that go into that in terms of Coach Jenick and my decision with that. But with some of the explosive quality that Penn State possessed on special teams, we really felt like Luke was going to be a weapon for us with kickoffs, and really proud of the way that he stepped in and carried on that load throughout the rest of the day.
Coach, your offensive line has a lot of the second most pressures in the country, and that's kind of broader than just Saturday against a really good Penn State defense. Kind of a two-parter. First, is there any consideration to any changes in personnel or practice for the offensive line? And second, kind of offensive game plan-wise, you guys maybe want to strive to get the ball out quicker to mitigate some of that pressure?
Yeah, I think a huge part of that. To be honest with you, we've played around with some rotations. I feel really good about where that group is at right now in terms of the guys that we expect trotting out there as the starting group. Coach Anderson, will continue to find ways to rotate guys at times to continue to build depth and find good rhythm with that group. I really believe that it comes back to what seems repetitive and cliche, but comes down to balanced complementary football. Finding ways to stay balanced offensively. It's much easier to stay balanced offensively when you're playing, in a tie game or with the lead. And at the end of the day, you get out in front of a Rutgers operation or a Penn State operation, these talented athletic defenses, and they have a 10-point lead, and you start to become one-dimensional as an offense. It becomes awfully difficult to be a play caller. It becomes awfully difficult to be an offensive lineman. So we need to find balance. We need to hone into complementary football, and we need to find ways to play with a lead.
Coach, Cam Porter hasn't reached over 100 yards this season on the ground. Is there any concern there with the rushing attack, or how do you get playmakers like him more involved?
Yeah, I think it really ties back into what I just spoke to in terms of just balanced attack, complementary football, playing with a lead. A guy like Cam Porter, our running back room is going to be at their best. Our O-line is going to be at their best when we can find ways to be up, 2 scores in the third quarter, control the clock, run the football. All of a sudden, Coach Bajakian has the entire call sheet available to him. I mean, that's the brand of football that we have to strive for and continue to push for. And so much part of that is not just the offense or not just the running back position, not just the offensive play caller. It takes all 3 phases playing at a really high level. And I truly believe in the third quarter against Penn State, a couple things go our way with a 4th down conversion or a fake punt, and we stay in the game, start to wear that opponent down a little bit. You see a little bit more of that balance moving forward. The situation we got in, being down by a couple scores, it went the other direction. But it really comes down to just balance, complementary football, and finding ways to lean on guys like Cam Porter and the rest of that running back room late in the third quarter, into the fourth quarter, and closing out games.
Saturday, Jack Lausch only had 1 touch. Some of your more explosive playmakers throughout the season really weren't a factor in this game. How do you get those guys the ball in their hands more often to help jumpstart this offense?
Yeah, I think you go back to some of the things that we've done in previous games when those guys have been seen at their best. I fully trust that Coach Bajakian and the offensive staff, sees the same things that others are recognizing, per Penn State, and we'll find ways to get the hands back, the ball back in both of those guys' hands.
Coach, you talked about some of those conversations you had with your team earlier today, sitting at 2-3 with only 7 games left in the season. Just what do you see for the trajectory of this group, and what are kind of some of the messages that you're able to share that you instilled in the team?
Yeah, no, we talked about the fact that we're, into the third game of our second quarter. Well-timed bye week right at halftime, and the challenge is to be at our absolute best this Saturday to go 1-0 this week. And if we're able to accomplish that, we go 2-1 in the second quarter. We go into halftime at 3-3, and you have a group that's got all the goals and aspirations that we have for this group still right in front of us. So it all starts with a great Monday prep and a great week of practice. Expectation is to be at our best this Saturday, but if you were to tell us that we were going to go into halftime coming off a win at 3-3, is that perfect? No, but does that give us a lot of reason to be excited and a lot of promise ahead? Absolutely.
Coach, on a side note, I asked Zach before earlier, but on top of the Howard team coming, they might bring their Howard marching band, of one of the best in the country. What are your just thoughts on hearing that, or like having that opportunity to see them? Of course, you'll be in the locker room, but even the fans to see that.
I think it's awesome. I think college football at its best. You talk about the student athlete experience, you talk about the student experience, you talk about fans and alumni. I mean, just that's incredible. To see what college football, college athletics can do for the experience of a young person, everything that goes in around it, for the overall experience, I think it's awesome. And I think the bands, the pageantry, everything that goes on pregame, at halftime, postgame, I mean, it's all part of it. It's a historic opportunity for Northwestern to be playing against an HBCU. I think the level of play that we've seen in recent years, at both the FCS level and at other HBCUs is something to take note of. And again, you go back on the history of college football. There's a lot of strong tradition, a lot of strong history, and that's not just the young men or the student athletes on the field. It involves a lot of things that go on around the game day experience. So to have Howard's band to be a part of the game day experience, that's something that we won't be able to take in as a team, but something that I'm excited for our overall community to be able to experience.
Coach, when you're watching tape from a game like Penn State, when they have several NFL prospects, how much do you attribute some of the good or bad plays to those great players making great plays, and how much do you try to change going forward?
I think you find balance. You find balance in the fact that you tip your hat to a very talented, well-coached team, but you have to be solutions-based. Okay, they made a nice play, but what do we learn from that? How do we move forward to make sure that that certain situation doesn't happen again? Great coaching is identifying what our guys can do really well at a really high level consistently and leaning into those things. And, a team like Penn State has the ability to expose some of those things. So in all three phases, those are things that we need to continue to evaluate. And then there's a great deal of excitement for us as a staff moving forward long-term about, recruiting young men that fit the values and the profile here of Northwestern that, we can bust our tails year-round to help them develop into great NFL prospects and NFL talent. And that's been proven to be done here for a long, long time. There's NFL guys on our roster too. And as we go through the recruiting process, we may not be able to recruit a bunch of 5-stars right now, but we can recruit a bunch of young men that 36 months from now can turn themselves into guys that NFL scouts are coming through and saying, you know what, this guy has the potential of being a first, second round draft pick. So a lot of credit to Penn State, but we also have to learn from those and put our guys in advantageous situations week in and week out.
Coach, Howard's averaging nearly 450 yards of offense, perfectly balanced, about 225 on each side run pass. What makes this offense so dynamic, and what do you guys have to do to keep this team at bay offensively?
They find ways to use tempo to their advantage. They're balanced, do a nice job up front. The scheme definitely fits the personnel. A couple talented backs, quarterback that spins it really well. A deep wide receiver room, and you turn on that Eastern Michigan film, and I mean there are some explosive plays showing up in the passing game. They do find balance. They utilize RPOs well to put themselves in advantageous situations in the run game. It's a team that screams an understanding of their personnel, being well coached, and when they start to put the pedal down and get you on your heels, they can get you reeling. So it's going to start with us doing a good job of handling the tempo, being really good on first and second down, and being efficient getting off the field on third down.
And just speak of that passing game, one of your top corners in Theron was out this week. Do you expect him to be back on Saturday?
We do anticipate that Theron will be back.
One more for you, Coach. Sorry. Penn State decided to air it out a little bit with 2 minutes left. Almost looked like a fake kneel down at points. Did you take exception to that? Does it motivate a team a little bit more seeing a team run up the score at the end of the game?
It was truly, I know the way it could have been viewed. It was truly a very well constructed play action pass, good scheme, great execution by them, and I'll never take exception to that. At the end of the day, we're out there to compete. We're out there to play a full 4 quarters, and the guys that Penn State tried out there, we're going out there to looking to execute a play and be at their best. And at the end of the day, we have to defend it. So we'll never take exception to anything like that. Thank you.
Heard Coach Braun discuss his quarterback situation. Ben Bryant did get injured in that game against Penn State. According to Braun, quote, "There is nothing specifically to share, but Ben's a tough dude. He'll do everything in his power to get back to full health." Now, Braun did say later in the press conference they hope to have Bryant available, but if he were not able to play, Brendan Sullivan would likely be the starter. Jack Lausch would be the backup to Sullivan if Bryant were unable to dress and get going. Coming up on Tuesday, as we bring you another edition of the Coach's Press Conference Big Ten Live, 3 men who you are used to hearing from on Tuesday, Ohio State and Ryan Day taking on unbeaten Maryland. Michael Locksley, fittingly enough, will also be part of Tuesday's show, and then we'll take you to Iowa City to hear from Kirk Ferentz as well. Of course, James Franklin, usually part of our Tuesday coverage. Penn State has a bye this coming week, so we will not hear from the head Nittany Lion.